we present Rachel Gurney and Richard Herndl in A Day by the Sea by N.C. Hunter, adapted for broadcasting by Molly Greenhouse. A Day by the Sea.
Lily, look what I found. Mattie, where's Lily? I can't find her.
Shh! Not so much noise, Toby. Your Uncle David's asleep.
Asleep? He's only just got up.
Never mind. When you're over 80, you'll want to sleep too. Now, run away now and take Lily up to the field and fly your kite. Here's your mother and Mrs. Anson, and they'll be wanting to talk.
All right. Lily!
Not so much noise, I said.
But why, Francis? Why? Oh, good morning, Mattie.
Good morning, Mrs. Anson.
Oh, Mattie, don't let me forget to go through the children's school list with you before you pack, will you?
Very good, Mrs. Farrer.
Really, Francis, if you hadn't come this time, I should have despaired of ever seeing you again. I should really have been offended.
I felt so ashamed, I only wanted to hide. Do you know, when I got out of the train last night, I imagined people were staring at me and saying, "Look, there she is."
Oh, my dear girl, I don't suppose anyone gave it a thought. You're not the first woman to be divorced.
No, but the circumstances, Laura, you must admit, were... And then to come back here, where the village people knew me as a child.
Yes, but do remember that's nearly 20 years ago. Why did you never come back, dear? We were all so fond of you, and you left us married and simply disappeared into thin air. Why? Mysterious creature.
It's so difficult to explain. You must have thought me dreadfully ungrateful, but it wasn't that.
Really, I began to wonder whether you'd been unhappy here.
Unhappy? Oh, this is the only house that's ever meant home to me.
I dare say it looks much the same. I'm too old to make any changes, and of course Julian never suggests anything. By the way, how do you think he's looking?
Not very well, rather thin and harassed.
Well, of course, he works far too hard. Simply ridiculous. He's ruining his health, and for what? He could hardly take life more seriously if he were the Foreign Secretary. And the fact is, he hasn't been particularly successful.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, he doesn't talk about it much, but I know he's disappointed. If only he wouldn't worry so. If only he'd be a little more tolerant and easygoing.
He was never that.
Really, the way he talks sometimes, you'd think the fate of Europe depended on him. However, when he's at home, I take good care to bring him down to earth. After all, although I run it, this place is actually his. Ian made it over to him years before he died. So I insist that he takes an interest in it and goes through the accounts with old Gregson. You remember Willie Gregson, Ian's solicitor? Julian can't bear him.
Poor Julian. I'm afraid he wasn't very pleased to see me.
Oh, really, I felt extremely angry with him last night. When one remembers that you and he were brought up here together like brother and sister.
He disapproves of me.
Oh, how can he be so stupid?
Oh, I don't blame him.
And of course, he's absurdly single-minded. Julian! Oh, if only I could have persuaded him to marry. Just think of the difference it would have made to him. Julian, dear.
Yes, I'm here.
No, not you, David, dear. Go to sleep again.
What about my medicine? He's getting very forgetful.
Doctor? He worries about his medicine, and it's probably only peppermint.
I keep hearing children. Whose are they?
I've told him half a dozen times. They're Francis's children, David. You remember Frances, the Ledward's little girl who came to live with us after her parents died? You remember, surely.
Yes, of course I do. You've been away some time.
I have indeed, Mr. Anson.
Sometime.
What's funny about that?
Nothing, dear. Here's the doctor with your medicine.
Here I come with my elixir. There you are. I'll swallow it up.
Filthy stuff. Still, I don't suppose it does me much harm.
Much harm? It's making a new man of you.
Very funny.
Now for your little walk, dear.
I don't want a little walk.
Just to the pond and back. Up you get. You always feel better after some exercise, don't you? Then this afternoon you shall sleep. We shall all be out, and no one will disturb you.
Where are you going?
Just to the beach for a picnic. It's the children's last day.
Can't I come?
You wouldn't like it, dear.
Yes, I should. I'm sick of the garden.
But there's no shade. You'll get hot and uncomfortable.
Hot? My dear girl, I've been in places where a day like this would be considered bitterly cold. 1 year old, of course, no one knows what the devil to do here. Well, come on, Doctor. Come to the pond. And this afternoon to the picnic.
18 years he's been here. When he first came, he was wonderfully active. But now, of course... Julian, do come out. I promised Ian that David should live here, but you've no idea how difficult it was to find someone suitable to look after him. It had to be a man of a certain education, and if you want that, then you've got to pay. In this case, the price is gin.
Gin?
Rows of bottles we found behind his dressing table this morning. Julian, dear, didn't you hear me calling?
I'd forgotten we had all those azaleas. When was I last here in May?
Oh, you may well ask. He's never at home now. Never. He's always organising Europe. Oh, do for goodness sake relax, Julian. Sit in the sun and put your feet up. You look as if you lived underground for the past 6 months. Francis thinks so, too.
I'm perfectly well, as it happens, and sitting in the sun doesn't agree with me. After 10 minutes, I'm simply exhausted.
Oh, nonsense, dear. And this afternoon we're going for a picnic on the beach.
A picnic? That's a good idea. I'm only sorry I shan't be able to come.
There. You see, Francis? He instantly dissociates himself from our childish amusements. Why can't you come?
I told you surely last night. Humphrey Caldwell is coming over to see me.
Well, then he shall come to the picnic too. Why not?
I gathered he particularly wants to talk business. He isn't motoring 30 miles to eat jam sandwiches on the shore.
Well, if you must talk business, nobody's going to stop you. You can go off together and whisper your secrets behind a rock. We shall be very disappointed indeed if you don't come, won't we, Francis?
Yes, very.
Mother, dear, how can we possibly discuss
of course
business?
you can, dear. Now, come and help me with the flowers, Francis.
Yes, of course.
Now, just forget the troubles of Europe for half an hour anyway. Oh, now, Willie, what do you want?
Oh, just a few matters.
Oh, do stop chasing him about with bills and accounts. Sit down, both of you, and enjoy God's sunlight for once.
A great character, your mother, Julian.
Yes. I sometimes think she believes I selected my profession solely with the idea of annoying her. Every time I come home, it's the same story. For about 10 minutes, she seems pleased to see me. And after that, she never stops making derogatory remarks about my work and interests. You and your ridiculous foreign politics and so on.
Oh, I see.
And her ignorance of everything that goes on outside this house and garden is simply astonishing. Mention Europe or America, and she instantly looks bored and changes the subject. Ask her the simplest question about world affairs, and she couldn't answer it. Yesterday, for instance, she said to me, "Let me see, who is the foreign secretary nowadays?"
Well.
To my mother, no doubt. This tiny world of hers seems very peaceful, very secure. No doubt it's pleasanter to saunter in a rose garden than to face the facts of our situation. That's why she derives such pleasure from obliging me to do rather trivial things, with the excuse that it's teaching me about human nature. Now she insists on inviting you here every time I come home, in order that I may be shown the accounts. Oh, well, please don't think I'm not delighted to see you here at any time.
Oh, thank you.
But to be perfectly frank with you, Gregson, I'm just not interested in playing the part of a country squire. The business of running an estate seems to me an irrelevance, an anachronism. I can assure you that sometimes, after a day's work, I have the feeling that all of us are like a lot of children, absorbed in a game of marbles at the foot of a mountain, while overhead a great avalanche is beginning to rumble and slide.
Matty! Oh, I'm sorry.
Did you want something?
No, thank you. It was just to tell Matty we found the spotted flycatcher's nest.
I see. I dare say she's in the house.
It doesn't matter. Thank you.
How long have these children been here?
Oh, about 10 days, I believe.
Seems rather curious.
Well, I think your mother likes having them. I remember their mother when she first came here from India. A little orphan girl of 10 or 12, very pale, nothing to look at. Well, you'll remember, of course.
Yes.
She's certainly grown into a fine-looking woman. But what misfortunes!
Her first husband killed in the war, and then this other unhappy affair. Oh, it's bad luck.
Bad luck? That's certainly a charitable way of describing it. However, it's no business of mine. Well, we may as well finish these accounts and have done with them.
There are just two matters. Firstly, your mother promised Adams to rebuild their pigsty. The drainage is the trouble. With pigs, it's essential to have a good runaway, as you can imagine, and the ground necessitates... let me show you the plans.
Oh, never mind about the plans. If it's necessary, do it. I agree. What's the other matter?
Now, this, I fear, is rather unpleasant.
I can't read it. Looks like gin.
It is gin. Now, I can hardly believe that your mother and the old gentleman consume that quantity of spirits.
Of course not. The doctor drinks it. Surely you know that.
I've suspected it for months. Oh, really? This has been a most unsatisfactory appointment. I do think the time has come when we should consider getting someone more suitable. A doctor who drinks in a house with a lady and an elderly gentleman. I beg pardon?
The governess was listening.
Oh.
We've discussed all this before. The difficulty, as you know, is to find anyone else. Besides, Uncle David likes him.
Then what's to be done? Are we to continue to tolerate his behavior?
We must keep a sense of proportion. He drinks, certainly, but it's not the end of the world. He only talks too much and gets boring.
When one remembers that your uncle only asked him for the weekend, and now he's been here 7 years.
A long weekend, certainly.
Oh, really? I must say I consider this a very serious situation.
Oh, my dear fellow, don't let's use such enormous words to describe a trivial annoyance. I mean, look what's happening to Europe. What's a drunken doctor, more or less, in such a world?
Well, yes, by comparison, no doubt.
Before he came, my mother was run off her feet looking after the old man. Peace isn't too expensive at 30 bob a bottle.
Yes, I dare say, but am I to pay this, then, without a word?
You're not disputing the fact that the gin has been consumed.
No, but
Then pay it, of course. I'll speak to my mother about the doctor. It'll be absolutely useless.
I hope I'm not disturbing any serious business.
Not at all. I was just saying, I remember when you first came here from India, a little girl with a pigtail.
Don't say how long ago.
You were shy at first and rather serious and thin. But how you used to run and climb trees, perfectly astounding. Do you remember, Julian?
Yes, I do.
And swim. I remember Mrs. Anson standing at the sea's edge shouting for you, and there you both would be, 100 yards out, splashing away as happily as anything. Oh, that takes us back some time. Yes, well, I'm here to work. I shall have a few papers ready for your signature later, if I may trouble you.
Certainly.
Then, if you'll excuse me, I expect you have a good deal to talk about.
Your mother put me back in the room I always used to have. When I woke this morning, it felt as if I'd never left here at all. It's a curious sensation to come back to a house after 20 years and see one's children playing where one once played oneself. It's rather eerie, as though one were watching one's own ghost. What do you think of my children?
They seem very nice.
Their father was a very nice man.
I never met him.
No, you did. I was forgetting. Of course, he hardly knew his children. They were so young when he was killed.
I believe he was a good deal older than you.
Yes, he was nearly twice my age.
I should hardly have imagined that that was altogether satisfactory.
No, not altogether. On the other hand, he possessed what was to me at that time an exceptional virtue.
And what was that?
He wanted to marry me.
I see.
And you? You've been all over the world, I suppose. I heard of you from time to time. Weren't you second secretary in Rome when Michael French was there?
Yes, I was.
You've enjoyed it all? The travelling, the life, the work? Has it all come up to expectations?
I don't know whether enjoyed is the word. I've never regretted my choice of profession, if that's what you mean.
Yes, that's what I mean. Oh, it's peaceful here. You must find it a pleasant change from Paris.
I'm fond of Paris. One feels at the heart of things. To come back here is like stepping out of the world into a kind of never-never land. People who live permanently in the country seem to inhabit a sort of vegetable world. It's another civilization.
Yes, everything's so slow and quiet. I like that.
Evidently you like Paris, too. I saw you there a few months ago.
Oh, where?
Dining in a little restaurant near the Madeleine.
And you never came to speak to me.
You were not alone.
Would you expect to find me dining alone in a Paris restaurant? What an odd person you are.
Well, to be perfectly candid, I didn't think it would be very profitable to either of us to renew a friendship after after so many years.
I see. Then my coming here must have embarrassed you. When I accepted your mother's invitation, I didn't know you would be at home. But we are going tomorrow.
I've no objection to your coming here, but surely you must understand that in the circumstances, it is a little difficult.
Yes, it was nearly tragedy. For a whole day they were doubtful whether he'd live.
You talk about it so calmly.
I've lived with it for so long.
It's true, then, he attempted suicide.
Oh, yes, quite true. He poisoned himself with sleeping tablets.
Dreadful.
For 24 hours he was on the danger list.
Such a young man.
Yes, he was very young.
I really cannot understand how you could possibly... However, no doubt you prefer not to discuss it.
Well, there's nothing to discuss. I was to blame entirely.
Julian, I must tell you, this morning the housemaid found 6 empty gin bottles behind the dressing table in the doctor's room. Now, what am I to do? Ignore it? Oh, why on earth must people drink? Filthy, disgusting habit. But yet, if I ask him to go, what are we to do? I can't look after the old man. Julian, are you listening?
Hmm? Oh, yes, Mother, of course.
Well, then what am I to do? Can't you speak to him?
Me?
Well, you could do it tactfully with your experience. It isn't much to ask.
Oh, very well, Mother, if you wish.
Why should I be plagued by these miserable old men? They spoil everything. Oh, I really must put a few scarlet rhododendrons over there to brighten that expanse of mauve. There's a lovely new variety with some name like Eastern Seas. Oh, I can see you're thinking of something quite different, Julian.
Excuse me, Mrs. Farrer. I think you meant to run through the children's school lists before I started packing.
Indeed I did, Mattie. I'll come now. I think we'll need some new handkerchiefs.
Yes, I'm afraid you will.
Julian, why are you so uncivil to Frances? I really don't understand it. I thought you'd like to see her again, instead of which you simply ignore her.
What seems extraordinary to me is that you should invite her here after what happened.
It's not extraordinary at all. She's gone through a most unhappy experience. And to whom else should she turn? I elected to bring up that girl because I was fond of her mother. Do you think I can ignore her existence now? She's never been very communicative, and I think she's behaved outrageously. All the same, I'm fond of the girl, and I don't care what people think.
Well, it's hardly a comfortable situation, is it? After all, she and I were brought up together here from the time she was 10 years old. There's not a corner of this house and garden that doesn't hold some memory for me of Frances as a child. And naturally, I've always had a particular sort of affection for her.
Well?
What has she turned into now? A woman who takes some stupid youth as a second husband, leaves him after 6 months, gets involved in his attempted suicide, scandal, divorce. Well, really, it's difficult to imagine that she has anything in common with the girl who used to run in this garden. We're simply strangers. What am I to say to her now? Are we to sit and chat about old times? It's embarrassing. Her very name seems to stick in my throat. How could she bear to come back here?
She came because I insisted she should. I thought it might help her. Now I'm beginning to regret it. Oh, you're very like your father in some ways.
If I'm being impolite, I'm sorry. I'll apologize. But really, when one thinks... Ever since she left school, her behavior has been quite incomprehensible to me. I could never understand why she had to rush off and marry Edison before she was out of her teens. He was old enough to be her father. And since the war... If half of what one hears is true...
Oh, poof! Everybody talks scandal about a pretty widow. Don't be so puritanical.
I'm not puritanical.
Then you're jealous, perhaps.
Jealous? Me? Oh, that's very good.
Here comes the doctor with David. Now, please don't say anything about the gin. If he feels he must drink, then drink he shall, and that's all there is to it.
It took us another 4 days steady climb, and there we were... over 19,000 feet up on the highest pass in the world, looking away north to Tibet. They call it Nangpa La. Mountain peaks as far as the eye could see, white and barren, like the surface of the moon. Few Europeans have ever made that journey. In those days I could walk.
Now sit down, dear, and I'll read to you.
Thank you. Oh, these damn legs of mine are worn out. The whole bag of tricks is falling to pieces. And so, from hour to hour, we rot and rot.
He's gone to sleep. Now I can get on with my book.
Oh, what a household. Round and round we go, day after day, like elderly goldfish in a bowl. Oh, mark you, I'm not complaining. If your good mother hadn't employed me when she did, I should probably be in a home by now. At one time, you know, I acquired an unfortunate taste.
Oh, yes?
Yes. Oh, you'd be surprised what a devil of a habit it is to break. One's disgusted with oneself, one makes up one's mind never to touch the stuff again, but by God, when the craving comes, I tell you, it's overwhelming. Yes, people don't quite understand. However, all's well that ends well.
You, succeeded?
Oh, yes, I mastered it, I'm glad to say. That's a good noise to hear. I'll be perfectly frank with you. I do take a drink occasionally.
Yes, I imagined you did.
Well, where's the harm? Cut out every pleasure and one might as well be dead.
You're wanted on the telephone, Mr. Anson.
Oh, thank you. Excuse me.
Can I speak to you, Doctor?
Oh, go on.
Well,
He's asleep.
they were talking about you, he and Gregson.
Enumerating my virtues.
Gregson was saying you were unsuitable to stay here because you drink.
You saw what I drank at dinner last night, barley water.
And what was it you had before you came downstairs that made you so talkative and your face so red? Was that barley water?
Oh.
Well, why do you take us all for fools?
Well, let them sack me. What do I care?
You've taken a drink just now. I can always tell.
I felt dreadful this morning. You wouldn't understand, of course.
What will become of you? Where will you go? How will you live? You'll just end in the gutter.
Well, who cares?
I do. It's terrible to see an educated man slipping into degradation. Have you no willpower? I mean, surely, for your own self-respect.
Oh, this damn Scottish Calvinism. Man has a couple of drinks and it's a tragedy. Degradation? Leave me alone, will you?
It seems I'm very clumsy. I meant to help you, to encourage you, and I only succeed in making you angry.
Oh, there, I'm not angry. You're a good girl. Don't take it to heart. Bless you, it's not worth a frown to anybody. You've got a pretty face. Now, let's see it smile.
Don't touch me. Oh, what's the use?
Oh, my dear girl.
Is something wrong with Mattie? She looks as if she was crying.
It's nothing.
She hasn't been looking well lately. I've asked her twice to see a doctor.
How old is she?
35. She's been with me 7 years. And all that time I don't believe she's made a friend or had an admirer. I feel sorry for her.
Yes, there it is. God knows some of us make fools of ourselves, fall in love stupidly, marry the wrong person, are disappointed, suffer. But, Lord, better that 1,000 times than to be 35 and still waiting.
She's been so loyal to me in spite of everything. But lately I've noticed her looking at me in an odd way, as if she hated me.
Well, perhaps she does. The fact is, there's no equality of opportunity in sex, no fair shares for all. She's one of the have-nots. She's probably envious.
Envious? When if she knew how gladly I'd have changed places with her sometimes.
I dare say, sometimes.
Oh, you think me hypocritical? Oh, I don't deny I've sought admiration and enjoyed it. But I never thought that one day I'd become the sort of woman that respectable people are embarrassed to meet.
You don't embarrass me. I'm not offensively respectable. Well, mark you, I wasn't struck off the register or anything of that kind.
Of course not.
There's no of course not about it. One night, I was called out to a case when I was drunk. I blundered out to the car, drove 5 miles, swerved all over the road, And what happened? Nothing. Nothing at all. Well, we all take risks, my dear girl, and as long as we're lucky, we're respectable. Use every man after his deserts, and who shall escape whipping?
There'll be no more risks for me from now on, that I promise you. Never again.
Never is a long time.
I mean it, never.
Now, where has Julian gone?
He was wanted on the telephone.
Oh, why can't they leave him alone? You know, he used to be quite interested in the place, but now his heart's in Whitehall. Oh, I've no illusions. When I die, he'll sell it.
It's disappointing.
What can one do? Where are the children? Corey! Corey! Toby! Lily!
That was Humphrey Caldwell. He hopes to be here about 3 o'clock.
Who is he exactly, dear? And what does he do?
We were in Stockholm together some years ago. Now he's head of the personnel department. His brother has a house in Dorchester. I couldn't quite make out why he wanted to see me.
As a diplomat, he would naturally be reluctant to make himself clear.
I'm afraid it may mean that I shan't be able to stay here very long.
You've only just arrived and now you're talking of going. Oh, it's all such nonsense. No, here they are. Well, dears, what have you been doing?
The cat has just killed a bird.
Oh, the wretch!
Look, a young thrush.
What a shame.
We chased the cat and shouted, but the bird was dead.
It just fluttered in my hand for a few seconds and then it died. The cat shan't have it anyway.
Certainly not. Now come with me and I'll show you where you can bury it deep in the ground and safe from any cat.
Yes.
And you know, we're all going to the beach this afternoon for a picnic.
Oh, lovely.
Do you think we could make it a tombstone?
Yes, there you are. There's nature for you, red in tooth and claw. And that's a nice pussycat, too. A gentle, friendly, furry creature. But show her a bird or a mouse, and she's a murderess, a ruthless killer.
Yes, it's horrid.
Ah, but don't forget the other side of the picture. Think of the poor, innocent little worms that pretty bird would have torn from the ground with its cruel beak and swallowed alive. Murder most foul, wherever you look. Yes, and what about man? He's tarred with the same brush. The instinct's there. Give him an excuse. Dress him up in a uniform, tell him he's a hero, and he'll go out and kill with no more conscience than that cat. Oh, you look as if you didn't altogether agree with me.
I hardly imagined you were serious. To draw an analogy between a cat killing a bird and nations going to war... Well, really, Doctor, isn't that a little far-fetched?
Oh, what's a nation? Just a pack, just a herd, ready to follow the loudest voice or the sharpest teeth. Let's have no illusions. We inhabit a jungle. Wolves, that's all. Oh!
Damned noise.
I'm sorry, old man. We were having a discussion.
There's no need to howl like a blasted hyena.
It was a wolf.
Oh.
It's no good. I'm for the individual. For instance, I like talking to you. I like talking to Mrs. Farrer here. I recognize civilized, intelligent persons with whom one can reason, joke, and argue. But put 2 million of you together, and I'd hate the sight of you. Now, take my advice. Leave the masses alone. You're wasting your time, my dear fellow. You might as well go and bang your head against that tree.
Oh, thank you very much, Doctor.
Oh, you don't believe me, of course. You're an idealist. I know. You'd much better resign, believe me. I can suggest a dozen better jobs.
Very kind of you.
Ah, I was an idealist once. Now, I'm an Epicurean. I think I might guess what you are, Mrs. Farrer.
Easily. I'm a middle-aged widow trying to bring up 2 children without very much money. And don't expect me to answer philosophical problems, please.
Just as I thought. A good, sensible materialist. My congratulations. I dare say David here might be on your side, the mountaineer. He's spent all his life toiling after the inaccessible, too.
If someone would tell me what the fool's talking about...
He's talking nonsense, Uncle.
Oh, nonsense, you think? And suppose I tell you that you and your kind are dangerous meddlers.
Oh, don't be so stupid.
You play with matters you don't understand, and what happens? Other people suffer for your mistakes. Yes, you're not as clever as you think.
Doctor.
It's true. They don't know what they're doing. They plot and plan, confer and scheme, sign treaties, build armies, and where does it get us all in the end? You're ignorant, the whole lot of you. You don't know what you're doing. You strut and pose and play your games, and other people pay. Yes, that's the end of it. Young men die, and you can't deny it.
This is intolerable.
Doctor, please.
Infernal bore.
Oh, no, don't go. Please. I apologize. No, don't go. I was just talking. I didn't mean it. The fact is, I've had a drink or two. You see, and, well, then one talks. Oh, don't go, please.
Then I suggest we change the subject.
Yes, of course. I talk too much, I'm sorry. I won't say another word.
There was a huge moth in my room this morning. It had greenish wings and stripes, and there was a reddish color on the underwing. Now, what would that be, what do you say?
It might have been a poplar hawk moth, Uncle.
Yes, it's possible.
We used often to find them in the garden in May, sometimes on the trunk of that tree. Do you remember, Francis?
Yes.
I used to collect moths when I was a boy. I still remember some of the names, though it's a longish time ago. I was born in 1897. My birthday falls on a rather curious date, November the 11th. So, by the inescapable logic of arithmetic, I was exactly 21 on Armistice Day 1918. You'd scarcely remember that, I suppose, Julian.
Vaguely. Flags in the village, I remember, and bells.
That's right. Flags and bells. And I was 21. Of course, it all seemed very significant of something or other. Oh, yes, a new era seemed to be dawning for me, for the whole world. When my son was born, some years later, I actually said to my wife, "He's a lucky little devil," I said, "to come into the world in 1924, with all the horrors of war behind him." In those days, of course, nobody dreamed, even in their wildest nightmares.
But surely, in spite of everything, we go forward. If only by infinitely slow and painful stages. Surely there's evidence of that. Oh, it won't be in our time, Doctor, but these children, for instance, or their children, perhaps, may actually live to see a world in which war is spoken of as we speak today of burnings at the stake, as something that had its place in a barbarous age and is now unthinkable, impossibly obscene. I can't believe that man is doomed to destroy himself. I can't believe it. We must work patiently. We must have faith.
You're getting quite eloquent, dear. We must find you a soapbox, then you can get it all off your chest in Hyde Park.
I beg your pardon. I'd forgotten that such subjects were taboo in this house. Excuse me.
Oh, no, I suppose he's offended. But I do get tired of these highfalutin speeches, this everlasting talk of politics and war. You never find something agreeable to talk about? Why must we have these wearisome world problems dragged into the garden, amongst the flowers? Oh, really, I won't have it.
Oh, it was my fault. I started it.
Well, it was very stupid of you, Doctor. You ought to know better.
I remember when he was young, when he was still at school, how excitedly he'd talk when something fired his imagination. Quite often I didn't understand half of what he was saying, but I was perfectly happy just to sit listening and watching, especially when he was indignant or delighted. And the words would come tumbling out, and his eyes were shining.
And you can imagine what the poor man suffered, Mr. Caldwell, inside his costume.
Dreadful.
I didn't catch that. What was inside his costume?
A jellyfish, Uncle David.
Ah, thank you. Very amusing. Very amusing.
There was a very strong bloater in that paste. More tea, please, Mattie.
Oh, there's not very much, I'm afraid.
I saw rather an attractive-looking pub on the top of the cliff.
Caldwell, you interest me strangely.
I remember once
Look,
when...
there's a poor
porpoise.
Oh, they're very graceful.
Yes, you should see them when they get among salmon at the mouth of a river. They fly through the waves like torpedoes. And you see the unfortunate salmon jumping high out of the water to escape them. Of course, a porpoise is a mammal.
What is a mammal exactly, Matty?
I'll tell you later, dear.
Nellie, if you and Toby have finished, I'm sure Mrs. Anson would excuse you.
Of course. Off you go.
Thank you.
Be careful of the slippery rocks.
There they go. Gradually one forgets how it used to feel when one could run like that, flying along, hardly conscious of one's body at all.
Now, last year, we took the children to a little place in Brittany. We simply lived in bathing suits.
Ah, you're a married man, Mr. Caldwell. You've got interests outside your work. Oh, I wish you could persuade Julian to marry and stop him working so hard.
Marriage is Mother's panacea for everything. If only I were married, I should be more successful, richer, taller, more handsome.
You can laugh, my dear boy, but you work too hard. In the old days, at a picnic like this, he used to be the life and soul of the party.
Who? Me?
It's true, isn't it, Francis? Yes. I remember him sitting there, exactly where he is now, juggling with tennis balls.
Juggling? Oh, you must be thinking of someone else. I never juggled in my life.
You can deny it, but it's true.
This chair is very uncomfortable.
If you'll excuse me, I'll just go and keep an eye on them.
Thank you, Matty.
The children will miss her.
Yes, they will.
And I know somebody she'll miss. The doctor.
Oh, me? Oh, ridiculous.
I keep my eyes open. Francis, if you've digested your tea, we'll take David for a stroll and leave these men to talk politics.
Mother, I...
And to think they get paid for their clumsy blunderings. My cook could do as well.
The cook's not bad. She can't do rice, though.
What's wrong with her rice, dear? This is something quite new.
It's sloppy.
Oh, come now. Now, we'll all go for a walk. We shall give you about 10 minutes, Mr. Caldwell, and then we shall come chattering back and disturb you again. No, that way, Francis, dear.
Oh, right.
Come along, Doctor.
Oh, I don't like to be beside the sea.
Well, I hope I haven't spoiled the picnic by coming over.
Well, not at all, Caldwell. I tried to arrange that you and I should stay at home, but my mother was very anxious that we should come. I'm home so seldom, I didn't like to disappoint her.
Good, I've enjoyed it. House by the sea. I've always dreamed of that. As I happen to be down here, I thought I'd take the opportunity of having a chat with you. It's nothing of any great importance, anyway.
What is it?
Well, we had a conference last week to make a few staff appointments and changes.
Yes?
Amongst other things, the question of extending your appointment in Paris cropped up.
My appointment? Well, how do you mean? Surely that was settled months ago.
Yes, that's
Well, the
true,
ambassador was perfectly agreeable, and I had your letter confirming it. I really can't see why the question was raised.
You understand, in the ordinary course of events, your term in Paris would finish about the end of the month.
Yes, of course, I know that perfectly well.
We came to the conclusion that it might be as well in the circumstances not to interfere with the normal routine replacement arrangements.
Do you mean...
Yes, we are going to bring you home at the end of the month. You'll get an official notification, of course.
But it's senseless. I took all the trouble to explain. You know perfectly well I'm serving on the Refugee Committee and shall be until the end of September.
Yes, I know.
Then why?
Extensions do mean a certain amount of disorganization on the establishment.
Oh, rubbish, man. That was all settled months ago. I cannot leave Paris yet. It's out of the question. I've important matters to deal with, and I cannot leave.
Yes, but it's difficult, Julia.
Difficult? And do you think it's going to be easy for Chesterton to take over from me at this moment?
Well, we discussed it very fully before coming to a decision, I assure you.
Of course, there's some reason for this.
Oh, it's just an ordinary matter of staff readjustment.
Do you think I believe that? At least give me some credit for not being a fool.
Look, really, Julian, I don't think you want to look for some sinister design behind what is, after all...
Oh, for God's sake, Caldwell, stop being tactful. I'm sorry. But surely we know each other well enough, can't we? Forget our official positions just for a moment.
Yes, of course.
It was agreed that I should stay on so long as the committee was sitting. And that's a perfectly normal arrangement. If you've changed your mind, it's because for some reason or other you're determined not to keep me in Paris a moment longer than is absolutely necessary. It has nothing to do with establishment difficulties. It's evidently a question of my own personal inadequacy.
Oh, look here. You're simply imagining things, Julian. There's really no point in bringing up this kind of thing. Each of us has his own personality and idiosyncrasies, and since these can't be changed, I never see that there's much to be gained by discussing them. You've got a very good brain, for instance, but then you don't happen to be the kind who goes out of his way to make himself agreeable.
I've no time for stupidity and incompetence, if that's what you mean.
Well, certainly your standards are very high.
Is that a reproach?
Of course not. The fact is, I suppose, that in our profession, a man's usefulness may depend to a certain extent on the success of his personal relations.
Quite so. In plain language, they dislike me in Paris.
You know, you're putting words into my mouth that I had no intention of using.
Oh, split hairs if you must, but the truth is I'm unpopular. Do you think I don't know what they say of me behind my back? I'm unpopular and unsuccessful.
Well, I should hardly describe your career as unsuccessful. Although we can't actually give you a department at the moment, I feel fairly certain that before long...
Oh, my dear Caldwell, please.
Well, look at me, if it comes to that. I haven't exactly set the Thames on fire. But isn't that the same in every profession? There isn't room for everybody at the top of the tree, and we all have a great regard for your integrity.
Haven't I worked? Damnation, haven't I worked?
Yes, you know, that's just it. Some of us think you work too hard. For instance, you're entitled to 56 days leave a year. Have you ever taken it? Last year, you had 29.
I was busy, as you know.
It was the same when you were in Stockholm, I remember. You don't play games, do you? And I know you're not one for entertainment.
I didn't join the Foreign Office for its social amenities.
Really, Julian?
Well, it gets on my nerves to see them all so infernally sedate. Talk about British phlegm. Huh. People profess to find it a virtue, but to me there's nothing more exasperating. Why, only take Maynard and his pipe, for instance. Go to him for the simplest decision, and what happens? Always the same interminable pantomime. Ums and ahs, and clouds of blue smoke, and the whole world can wait while he fiddles and sucks and chews and blows and dribbles. If they dislike me, let me tell you what I think of them. They're second-rate, the whole lot of them. Second-rate.
Well, I dare say that's true, according to your standards. For the matter of that, the vast majority of human beings are second-rate. Now, look. Can an older man give you a word of advice? Don't expect so much. Try to live in the world as it is, and not dream all the time of what it may be in 500 years, when we're all of us wiser and kinder and cleverer.
What do you propose to do with me?
Well, for the time being, you'll be attached to the permanent Undersecretary's department.
Where I can do no harm.
Oh, come
I
now.
object to being treated like this. You're simply recalling me as if I were an incompetent clerk.
Oh.
And why? Because I work too hard, if you please. Well, why should I accept this decision? No. I shall see the ambassador. I shall appeal against it. It's grotesque.
Oh, come now.
Oh, leave me alone. To hear this kind of news at a picnic, well, it's a bit incongruous among the donuts.
I'm really very sorry. But I hope you won't take it too much to heart.
Oh, no, of course not. No, the truth is, it's not so much leaving Paris that matters to me. It's just that now I understand Caldwell. Now I understand exactly what my position is. Well, at 40, it's about time to come to one's senses.
Don't you think that you're rather exaggerating the importance of this affair?
Very likely. The plain truth is that I've exaggerated the importance of my whole career. It's a misfortune in life to be a success at 21. Just win a few scholarships at the varsity, and the old fools nod their heads and say, you've got a splendid future before you, my boy. And at that age, too, of course, one believes it. Nothing's out of reach. One sees oneself working miracles. It's amusing to consider the reality. First secretary, and a misfit at that.
Yes, a lot of your work has been greatly appreciated, I assure you.
Oh, thank you, Caldwell. Thank you.
Look, you need a change. I suggest you take a month's leave pretty soon.
Change? Yes, you're right. Yes, by heaven, it's time for that. When I think of the way I've lived, and for what? People call me clever. But what have I to show for my 40 years of life? Why, the first fool you stopped in the street with a home of his own and a wife and a dog would have more to boast of than I. Well, what have I? Oh, a lot of his work was greatly appreciated. Epitaph on a well-meaning civil servant. Do you see the children playing? When one is young, one looks at the world, touches it, and enjoys it. But as one grows older, so gradually one turns away from it, scarcely sees it from one year's end to the next. I've been in America, Sweden, Italy, France, and all I've seen, all I've touched is another office desk, a different sort of ink pot. That's true. This sun, the air, the sky's brightness. I've taken care to shut myself away from them for fear they should distract me from the business of meddling in humanity's affairs. Think of the stupidity. Deliberately to shun all wonder, all pleasure, even love itself. Isn't that to qualify for a madhouse?
You're still a young man. You've time.
Time. Yes, but what have I wasted? What have I lost?
Please. Oh, I wonder if you'd mind putting these in your pocket until we get home. I've nowhere safe to put them, and they keep dropping out of my hand.
Shells. Yes, I'll look after them.
Thank you. There are 6 periwinkles and 14 cowries. Oh, and 1 dog whelk. Thank you. Toby, wait for me!
Yes, well, I must be getting along, or I shall miss my train.
Go gather by the humming sea some twisted, echo-harboring shell. Years ago, when their mother was quite young, she and I, I'll come with you up to the house.
There. He's asleep again. Go on, dear. Tell me.
That summer I was 28. He'd been away off and on for so long that his death made hardly any difference to my life. I wrote 1 letter less a week, that's all. Of course, I was sad for a time. But I always had it at the back of my mind I'd marry again.
Why shouldn't you? You were quite young.
The truth is, I wanted to be admired and courted. I wanted to find a husband, so I started to look for one. I did it quite deliberately. Perhaps that's why I wasn't very successful. Meanwhile, the years were passing.
Then you met Farah?
Yes. As he came to live in the flat opposite mine. We used to meet in the lift occasionally, and I never even looked at him. Oh, why should I? He was years younger than I. A boy. It was weeks before I discovered he used to wait and listen for my door to open and then step out to meet me. Eventually I snubbed him. Oh, quite mildly, but he blushed and stammered and was so apologetic I felt I'd been too unkind, so a day or 2 later I invited him in for a drink with some friends.
Ah, yes, of course.
And from that day he never left me alone. He sent me flowers, he sent me books and invitations. He even copied out bits of Shakespeare and Ronsard and pushed them under my door.
Couldn't you discourage him in some way?
Oh, I said all the usual things. I was far too old, we must just be friends. I meant it too at first. And then gradually, as he insisted, I began to think, well, after all, perhaps.
My dear girl.
Did you say something?
Nothing, dear.
Chatter, chatter, chatter. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Nothing, dear.
He can't hear.
I suppose I was flattered. I was tired of living alone and told myself that other women had married men much younger than themselves. It isn't invariably disastrous, surely.
If only you'd come to me for advice.
When you've made up your mind to do something stupid, you avoid good advice. Oh, I knew it was stupid, but I couldn't stop. And so we were married. He'd have been happy enough with a girl of 21, but with a widow of 36... he didn't seem able to treat me as an ordinary creature of flesh and blood. For a woman of my age, it was simply embarrassing. And when I tried to bring him down to earth, I could see he was hurt, shocked.
Yes.
After 3 or 4 months, the situation was so getting on my nerves, I could hardly speak politely to him or bear him near me. At last I told him that I was afraid we'd made a mistake, that I was to blame. I'd go, give him a divorce, arrange for everything. He kept saying, "But what have I done? What have I done?" A few days later, they found him unconscious, and a long letter that was published in the papers in which he forgave me.
People read about these things, but no one understands.
Oh, I know I deserved it all, but did he? What'll become of him? One thinks one lives in a vacuum, that one's sins are one's own concern, but that's not true.
Julian, dear, what have you been doing?
Nothing. Nothing.
I hope Mr. What's-his-name hasn't ordered you off to Timbuktu by the next train.
No, quite the reverse. I'm being recalled to London.
I thought you were to stay in Paris for another 6 months.
That was the arrangement, yes.
Then why has it been altered? Are they promoting you, dear? Well, it's certainly high time.
Not exactly, no.
Of course, no one can expect to understand the machinations of the Foreign Office. Aren't they pleased with your work, or what?
Oh, simply delighted.
Then why, may one
Really,
ask?
Mother, it's not worth discussing. I dare say I've trodden on a few toes, that's all.
I must say, I think they treat you quite disgracefully, considering the way you work, never sparing yourself, never taking proper holidays.
What's the matter? What's happened?
Never mind, dear. Why don't you appeal?
Appeal? It's merely a routine move. Besides, I'm perfectly satisfied. They were a dull lot in Paris. I shall be glad of a change. It's not bad news at all. On the contrary.
How much longer are we going to sit here?
What did I say? Do you want to go home, dear?
Yes, I do.
Doctor? Where on earth is he? Doctor?
Bet you £0.50 is with Gregson in the pub.
I might have known this would happen. Why we go on employing anyone so hopelessly unreliable? It's simply throwing money away.
Oh, he's all right.
Well, it's all very well to say that.
Let me take him for you.
No, dear, you please stay here. He's my responsibility. Now, come, dear. And when the doctor comes, Julian, tell him we wanted him and he wasn't there.
I don't want to upset anyone.
Perhaps we should all go. I'll call the children.
Certainly not. Now, the children are enjoying themselves. I told you it was going to be a long day, but you wouldn't listen to me.
There must be an end to it.
For years, my mother has been telling me that I work too hard, and now when she's proved to be perfectly right, she's indignant.
Does that surprise you? You don't know much about human nature.
No, perhaps not. I had no business to speak to you as I did this morning. I hope you'll forgive me.
Of course.
Do you know how long it is since you and I were together on this beach? It's nearly 20 years. Nothing's changed. People who think their lives important should look at rocks. Rocks that have stood, say, for 400 million years. It's pathetic, isn't it, to think how long some of us continue to deceive ourselves. Of course, my leaving Paris will not make the slightest difference to anybody or anything.
I always thought it was the wrong profession for you. You should have been a painter or a writer and worked off all your romantic notions harmlessly on paper.
Look! Look! I found this in a pool.
What is it, darling?
It's called Ascidian, Mattie says.
Oh, yes, Ascidian.
Is Mattie really leaving?
Yes, darling, she's going to her sister.
When?
Tomorrow, when you go back to school.
Can she come back sometimes?
Yes, I expect she can, if you'd like her to.
Yes, I should. When can she come? Can she come next summer holidays?
Yes, I dare say. Yes, I dare say she could come for a week or so next summer.
Do you mind if I tell her that?
No, you tell her if you'd like to.
Oh, thank
Only
you.
don't go too far away. We'll be leaving soon.
Not yet, Mattie!
She's an attractive child.
What will become of her? Has she a friendly star? I often wonder.
When I went to Washington, you were still a schoolgirl. Hearing of your engagement came as quite a shock.
I was 19.
Yes, I know. All the same, it seemed absurdly young. Nobody could be expected to know their own mind at that age.
I did.
I confess it rather annoyed me at the time. When how many men had you met, and why the hurry? Of course, it was none of my business. I realized that. And in any case, I could hardly have interfered from the other side of the world.
And suppose you'd been here. How would you have interfered? I've always been obstinate, you know.
At least we might have discussed it sensibly.
Sensible discussion. Do you think that would have made any difference?
You know how one daydreams? Imagining what might have happened had one made some different decision at some time. Well, I've wondered occasionally how you would have answered if I'd asked you years ago to marry me.
Years ago?
Say, before you met Miles Edison.
Oh, then. Oh, well, then I'd have married you if you lifted your little finger.
Is that true?
True? Oh, Julian, don't be ridiculous. Surely you knew.
But of course I didn't.
Oh, and the trouble I took to please you.
But I never thought
No,
that you...
of course not. Why should you? There was so much else to excite and interest you in those days. I remember the morning you had the notice of your appointment in Washington. How delighted you were. Everyone said how splendid it was, and all I could think of was that it was 3,000 miles away and that I'd lost you.
I didn't know.
No, you didn't know. I remember we went to Southampton to see you off. You kissed your mother goodbye, and then, for some reason or other, you turned to me, gave my hair a little pull, and said, "Goodbye, behave yourself." That was as near as I ever got to a kiss from you.
But surely you knew I was fond of you.
Fond? Were you fond? Oh, if only I'd been fond and not lost, not damned past saving in love.
But our whole lives might have been entirely different if only I'd realized...
If. That's a silly game to play. Here comes the doctor and Gregson.
Oh, those boring old men. Let's go.
No, I think we'll stay.
No, why? Come for a walk with me, please. Please.
No, Julian, no.
Why not?
Well, I never saw her again until she died. I'm talking about my sister, Mrs. Farrer. And he actually came up to see me in the hospital and said, "Now I hope you're pleased with yourself." That's true.
Dreadful.
It's been going on like this for 20 minutes.
It's all very well to sneer, but what would you have done? I mean, imagine it. Your own sister dying in poverty.
Well, why think about it, my dear fellow? It doesn't help.
She might be walking the earth today.
Ah, she's probably much happier where she is.
That's what I tell him. Of course she's happier, far happier.
What's the matter? Is he hurt?
It's his sister.
His sister? What do you mean? She died years ago.
Exactly. That's just it.
Sometimes it comes back to me. I just can't help it.
Really, Willie, come now. You've been giving him drink, Doctor.
One glass of beer.
Well, you know what he's like. Now, that's quite enough, Willie.
Yes.
You did all you could for your sister. We've been through the whole story before, several times. Now, you please cheer up.
I'll try.
Well, we're here to enjoy ourselves. A beautiful evening like this, too. Meanwhile, since you were nowhere to be seen, Doctor, I had to take the old man home myself.
I'm sorry.
You might think.
I beg your pardon.
Excuse me, Mrs. Anson. I'm afraid we've lost the kite. The wind dropped as Toby was pulling it in, and it swooped down and stuck halfway up the cliff. You can see it from here.
Oh, dear, yes, what a nuisance.
Something like this always happens just when one wants to go home.
Can't we climb up to it? If the old man was here, he'd be up that cliff.
I think I can get it.
Yeah, of course you can.
Of course you can do nothing of the sort. You're not a climber. One slip and where would you be?
I've climbed these cliffs a dozen times.
I dare say, when you were young.
Well, I'm still under 80, Mother. It doesn't look particularly difficult.
Julian, will you please oblige me by not being stupid and obstinate?
Nobody need be alarmed. Broken legs are my speciality.
That's not funny. Julian, dear, I forbid you to do it. It's so steep.
This way to the amazing exhibition. Daredevil diplomat dices with death.
Doctor,
What? Yes?
may I speak to you?
What now?
There won't be another chance.
Oh, very well. Speak on. You have our ear.
Please don't joke.
Oh, my dear girl, what is it? You're trembling.
Don't laugh, that's all.
Of course not. Come and sit down.
No, I'd prefer to stand. We've no time. Doctor, it may not be very long before your employment here is ended.
Well, yes, that is so.
I believe you are quite alone in the world.
True.
So you'd have nowhere to go from here.
Oh, as to that, a nomad existence suits me. I'm an independent old cuss.
Doctor, would you not consider letting me make a home for you?
Oh, my dear girl.
I'd not interfere with you. You could come and go as you liked if you wanted to drink, if it gave you any pleasure. I'd not try to stop you by lecturing or nagging, as long as I could look after you and make a home where you were comfortable.
Mattie, please, I beg you. My dear girl, you're not thinking what you're saying. It's out of the question. Why, consider our ages.
I'm 35.
Exactly. I'm 56, 21 years older. You're a fine young woman. You should be thinking of a man who could offer you some sort of future. A young fellow with energy and prospects.
Do you think there are many young fellows with energy and prospects who'd want to marry a penniless governess of 35?
Oh, when I say young...
I've never had a proposal of marriage in my life, not one. Of course, I'm not pretty, but uglier women than I get married, plenty of them.
Oh.
Maybe I've not the right way of speaking to men. My sister always says I'm too solemn, too serious, and I dare say she's right. But am I never to be married because I've no great sense of humour? And what have I to joke about, will you tell me?
Now, Mattie.
Some women have only to lift their eyes and take a pick of a dozen. Look at her. How many men has she had, and young too? It's not fair. It's not fair.
Shh, now, there. Shh.
Oh, sorry. I just thought, before it was too late, I might as well offer to live for someone who'd not be too particular, perhaps.
Not too particular? This is simply unheard of. Well, what can I say?
You don't need to say anything. I'm not so dense I can't understand.
Could I let you throw yourself away on a waster, a drunkard? Look at me. A nice sort of bridegroom I'd make for any woman.
What do I care that you're poor or a drunkard? You're kind, gentle, understanding, and you'd be someone that belonged to me at last. You'd be mine. If you knew how tired I am of loving other people's children and losing them and starting again, and never a soul that's mine to keep.
Oh, come now, come. Now, let's talk this over calmly. Now, let me say, first of all, that I don't see in your situation any need for such desperate remedies as you suggest. Because a young woman has reached the age of 35, that's no reason why she should throw herself away on an old fool who can be no help or comfort to her.
Why do you speak of yourself like that?
Because it's true. I've had my life, marriage, a career, a child. I've had it all. In what's to come, I am not particularly interested. And to live with a man who's uninterested in life would be dreadful, depressing. But at 35, good heavens, there's hope. A chance meeting, a letter, some trivial little incident may suddenly transform your whole life. And I believe it will. Yes, I have a strong conviction that your star is in the ascendant.
You're very kind.
Your day will come. I'm certain of it. You know, there's a certain sort of tree that only flowers every 12 years, or 10 perhaps, I forget which. And so it is with certain lives. For years they're grey and monotonous, and then one day, unexpectedly, they blossom out in happiness. Oh, yes, he's rescued the kite. Ah, how absurd. You can see he's quite delighted with himself. Oh, very clever, very daring.
Got it! He got it! Oh, why didn't you come? Why didn't you? Halfway up, we all thought he wasn't going to be able to get any higher, and then
We should start packing up now, dear. It's nearly 7 o'clock.
If that little bush hadn't been there, what would you have done?
I should have rolled down the cliff.
Roll down the cliff, roll down the cliff.
What a feat. Now for Everest.
I still say it was very stupid. Just one slip, and look at his trousers ruined.
Oh, that's
I think
nothing.
we could mend that.
Ah, there, you see. Willing hands attend to the hero's every need. What can I do? Surely you require some medical attention? Let me feel your pulse. 98, 99, 100. He's alive.
Roll slowly down the cliff.
Shush, darling, you're too excited.
It's clear that I should have been a mountaineer. I've wasted my life, Doctor.
Now, pack up, please. Pack up, children. It's time to go.
That was a shabby trick you played on me, Doctor. Very shabby.
What do you mean?
There was something in that beer.
Oh, don't be such an ass.
Willie, your spectacle case.
Thank you.
Julian, take the rug, dear.
Yes, Mother.
Bring the chair, Doctor. Come on, everybody.
To Babylon, 70.
Next summer, shall we be able to go to the sea? Shall we?
Perhaps, darling. We'll see.
It's all right. I asked her, Matty, and she said you could come next summer. Next summer.
Good morning, Doctor.
Good morning.
Look at this flower. There used to be a lot in the wood, owing to the heavy clay soil. It's called Herb Robert, or Geranium robertianum. The leaf has a rather peculiar scent.
I don't care for it.
It's pungent, certainly.
It looks as if there'll be more trouble in the east.
Oh, very likely. You know, I got up early this morning and went for a walk. Everything was absolutely motionless, as if asleep. The light wasn't bright like this, but gold. And the shadow of that tree stretched all across the lawn. Such stillness.
Why get up early? Couldn't you sleep?
No. Doctor, I must tell you something. I have decided to marry.
What?
Yes. All last night I thought of what my future was to be, and at last it became absolutely clear. No more ambitions for public life with its arid frustrations. Marriage, a home, children.
Does this mean you approve of marriage in a general way, or that your affections are already fixed on some particular object?
Well, of course they are. There's only one person in the world I would dream of marrying. Frances Farrer.
Oh, my dear boy.
Well?
Oh, nothing. She's a fine woman of the world. She has courage and dignity. I congratulate you.
Thank you. Thank you. You're a good fellow. Oh, I feel so absurdly excited.
Have you declared yourself?
Well, I've had no opportunity yet, but I mean to speak to her presently. She has suffered a great deal. You can see it in her face and movements, and hear it in her voice. And do you know who is partly responsible? I am.
You?
Yes, for the way she's lived, for the way she's suffered. I'm very much to blame, Doctor. I realize that now perfectly well.
Oh, we're all involved, my dear boy, one with another. We're all involved.
It's extraordinary. When I first saw her again, I only thought that she looked older. But yesterday, on the beach, her face seemed to have changed and grown more beautiful.
Oh, that's very extraordinary, of course.
Have you got 2 10-shilling notes for £1 by any chance?
I might have. Yes. Here.
Thank you.
Ah, I see.
What?
Oh, when a man wants to make himself agreeable to a widow, he starts by bribing the children.
How is David this morning, Doctor?
Oh, he's all right.
How can you say that when last night he nearly collapsed?
Oh, you know, he's a very old gentleman. We shall have these frights from time to time. Probably the sun was too much for him.
Oh, it worried me. I couldn't sleep all night. I kept thinking, suppose he dies in his sleep. Suppose I never can speak to him again. I should never have forgiven myself.
He wanted to come with us. It would have been unkind to have left him at home. It wasn't your fault, Mother.
No, you don't understand, dear. I've been so short-tempered with him, so quick and impatient. How can he help being slow and deaf and easily tired? He's coming to the end of his days, and we must never forget that. God knows his life is dull enough. He has no one of his own generation to talk to, no one's interested in his stories, and if he makes an attempt to join in the life that's going on round him, he's soon made to understand that he's a nuisance, in a way. It's so cruel.
Age, I do abhor thee. That's the law.
Now, please don't say that. I don't like it.
It's Shakespeare.
I don't care who it is. Oughtn't he to have a heart tonic?
No.
Doctor, are you thinking what you say?
You can always flog a tired horse, but you can't prolong its life. His heart is old, that's all, like the rest of him. Of course, if you care to call in another opinion...
Oh, no. You do usually help him to dress, don't you?
Why, fasten his shoes and pull on his trousers. He likes to do the rest himself.
Well, perhaps this morning he was so tired last night, if you wouldn't mind.
Oh, as you wish.
Why are you up so early, dear?
I couldn't sleep either. I was restless.
We must be friends, Julian.
Of course, Mother, of course.
I was worrying so much last night about your future.
There's nothing to worry about.
Say that, dear, but I think otherwise. You must remember you're 40 now. I don't like to think of you going on into middle age unsuccessful and alone. Such a bleak outlook. Independence is all very well for a young man, but as you grow older, you will find it's just another name for loneliness.
Mother,
I'm talking, Julian.
I'm sorry, but could we discuss all that later? Do you mind?
Yes, I do mind. I'm speaking for your own good, and I'll be grateful if you'll allow me to finish.
Oh, I beg your pardon.
You think me a fool, of course, because I don't happen to interest myself in politics. Nothing that I say is worth your attention.
Oh, there's a spider on your collar.
Oh, take it away.
There, it's gone.
Why won't you let me help you, dear? Why? You'll never make an effort on your own behalf, but now that you've to be at home for a time, I could easily do some entertaining for you. I should enjoy it. And you could meet a few nice people. For instance, however long is it since you've seen the Clintons? Elizabeth is 26 now, and she's grown into such an attractive creature.
Yes, I dare say.
Very well, then I shall arrange.
Mother, will you please try to understand that I am not interested in Elizabeth Clinton?
Oh, I can see what it is. You'll never marry, never.
Mother,
You'll simply end up as one of those pathetic creatures who spend their days in clubs for company and go home night after night to empty flats. Very well, I shall say no more. But if you imagine that's a happy way to live... well, what is it, Willie? We were having a private conversation.
Oh, I beg your pardon. It was just these plans. Excuse me.
No, you needn't go. Now, we've finished.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Well, now, I said I'd show you these plans and the estimate.
Oh, yes, the pigsty.
The scale is 1 inch to 1 foot. Now, here, for instance, is the sectional view, and you can see the rather complicated drainage system.
Yes, I suppose so.
That's all very well, but how much will it cost?
The estimate is £105, but I dare say...
Oh, it's out of the question. Perfectly absurd. Why should he have such a luxurious pigsty?
I understood that you had more or less promised him.
Then I've changed my mind. £105, indeed? Well, for half that, he could buy enough pork to last him for the rest of his life.
Yes, but one can't promise a person a pigsty 1 minute and then simply change one's mind the next.
All right. I'll let him have it. It's your money, after all, not mine. Let him have it by all means. And don't let's discuss it any more.
Oh, very well.
I'm tired of it all. Yes, I'm tired. There's everlasting struggle year after year to keep the place in some sort of order. And for whom? I fuss about, make plans, spend money, and who cares? Who appreciates it?
I do, Mother. I assure you I appreciate it very much.
You? What good is it to you? You never live here. When I die, you will have to sell it.
On the contrary.
Don't argue, dear. You know you will. It will be sold. All my work will be forgotten, disappear. Fact is, we should have left years ago when Ian died, and I should have taken a flat in London.
But I've suggested London a dozen times, and you've always said you would hate to live there, that your only interest was in this house and garden.
Have I? Oh, well, I dare say I have. One says anything. Anyway, what does it matter? My life will be over soon, thank goodness.
Mother,
No,
dear,
don't
listen.
speak to me. Leave me alone. Everybody can go away and enjoy themselves. I'm tired of you all.
Oh, Mother, darling, please.
There. I'm all right now. I apologize. Thank you, dear. I'm all right now. My back ached all night. I didn't sleep. And then that fool, that lunatic in the kitchen has broken the refrigerator again. And now, with the hot weather coming on, it really is too much.
What's this tomfoolery about my not being able to dress myself, Laura? The day I can't put my clothes on, you can knock me over the head and have done with it.
We all of us like to be helped at times, dear. Johnson always used to pull off your hunting boots, don't you remember?
Hunting boots are entirely different. I hate being messed about.
Anyway, dear, I'm glad you're better. We were so worried.
Oh, where's my geographical magazine?
In your chair, dear.
Oh.
Well, Francis, dear, so you're ready.
Yes, all packed. Oh, we have all enjoyed it here so much.
You must come again, with the children. You must all come again.
How kind of you. Are you better, Mr. Anson?
I'm all right. Can't kill me. I go on boring everybody year after year. Is it 8 years I've been here, Laura, or 7?
7 or 8? My dear David, it's 18.
What on earth are you talking about? It can't possibly be more than... it can't be 18.
Yes, dear, it is.
Of course, I'm such an old fool now. Time means nothing to me. The years pass and pass. But 18, really, I apologize.
Don't be so silly, dear.
I'm a sort of blasted Methuselah.
You're nothing of the sort.
Come on, Doctor. It's time for my walk.
Now, let me take you for a walk this morning, dear. Up we get.
Oh. Very kind of you. 18? Is there no end to it? One begins to feel there's been some mistake. One's been left behind, so to speak, while all one's friends...
Shh, dear, now don't. Now, where would you like to go? Just to the pond and back?
Yes. The pond and back. The pond
Doctor,
and back.
if you see Willie Gregson, tell him I'll be with him in a few minutes.
What? Yes, very well, very well.
Francis, I've so wanted to speak to you. Twice yesterday evening I tried, but each time it seemed as if you were anxious to avoid it.
We all talked so much yesterday. Too much, perhaps. Oh, really, you've changed so little, Julian. Watching you climb that cliff, you might have been 25. Do you know what it is that makes people grow older than their years? It's not hard work. It's not even failure. It's shame. Disgust with oneself. Living vulgarly. Dear, I didn't mean to talk seriously. You were out very early this morning.
Yes, I went for a walk. In the wood, I saw a tree that was blown down in a gale some years ago. Although it still lies on the ground and most of its roots are broken, its branches are covered with young leaves, and fresh roots are growing in place of the old ones.
Is that a parable?
It might be. I can't help thinking that a life, like a tree, might renew itself and put out fresh roots, as it were.
Yes. But would it ever be quite straight again? Wouldn't it always be twisted in some way? Oh, I'll be out of our depth in a minute. Yes, and it's nearly time
No,
to
don't go. You keep evading me, and I must talk to you.
Well, then, let's talk of the past. Let's talk of what's pleasant.
And the future? Couldn't that perhaps be pleasant, too? Last night, after you'd gone to bed, my mother told me something of what had happened between you and young Farrer. And the more I thought of it, the more I realized the extent of my own responsibility.
Oh, but that's nonsense.
On the contrary, my thoughtless behavior 20 years ago drove you into an unsatisfactory marriage with Edison, and all that followed was a direct consequence And that's undeniable.
Julian, you can't go through life feeling responsible for the actions of a girl who happened years ago to fall in love with you without encouragement. You can explain my behavior in 100 different ways, but nothing excuses it. Oh, I meant to show you rather amusing photographs.
Yes, but do you mind, please, not changing the subject? We've little enough time as it is, and before you go, I must tell you that... Oh, there now. I'm talking to you as if I were giving orders to a clerk. And what I want to tell you, what I want to say, is simply to beg you to consider becoming my wife.
Oh, Julian, no.
Why no?
You hadn't thought...
I've thought all night, and I'm sure. And the certainty and the longing to speak to you made me so impatient. And the hours till morning passed so slowly. I walked because I couldn't stay still. I felt so exhilarated, and the morning seemed to be shining entirely for my benefit.
No.
Surely it's simply providential that you and I should have met here again now at this particular moment.
Julian, it's not providential at all. It's only an accident. You're reading into our meeting some significance that isn't there. Oh, don't think I'm not flattered and grateful. I am. Really, it wouldn't do, Julian. It's not possible.
Oh, I've been too awkward and abrupt. I understand that now, but in a year, say, when you had enough time to...
It isn't that. It isn't time I need.
Oh. Then you can only mean that it's not possible for you to love me, or to think of living as my wife. Is that it?
You think we'd be happy, but we wouldn't. You think we can go back to the beginning and start again, but it's not possible, Julian. You're making a mistake.
You say that with such appalling certainty. I know what you feel. Because you've had so much unhappiness, you can't believe in a new life, but...
A new life. How like you that is. Do you know how it would end? I should disappoint you, Julian. You believe so much, and I so little. You think of me as the girl you used to know grown older, but I'm not. I'm quite different. I'm changed. Some sort of flame seems to have burned out, and now I'm just cold and old and empty-hearted.
I don't believe it. And if you are, I'll change all that. Oh, for God's sake, believe it. Do you know that the only times that I remember with pleasure are the days when you and I spent our summers together here, in this house on the beach before I went away? It was always fine then. Or so it seems now. Oh, those days are gone, I know, and we've changed. But surely there's something left of them still alive that might grow into a new kind of happiness. No? Is it so impossible? Say something.
Oh, I shouldn't have come here. This should never have happened. If I hadn't come back, you'd never have thought of me, never have wanted to see me again. That would have been so much better.
I'm not fit to share your unhappiness, is that it? Have I really so little understanding? Stay with me, Francis. Please.
It's too late, Julian. It's too late.
But,
don't say any more. Here's Matt.
I think I'd better give you the keys now, Mrs. Farrer, before I forget it. And these are the lists you wanted.
Oh, thank you, Matty, yes.
Toby's box will want mending before he goes back next term.
Yes, he needs a new one. It's really too small.
It would be better.
Now, we arrive at Paddington at 2:30 with the children. What time's your train north?
Oh, not until 5:30.
We shall all miss you dreadfully, of course.
Partings are never very agreeable. I hope the children will continue to make progress at school.
Come and see them sometimes, Matty.
That would be very nice. Oh, excuse me, I have something for the doctor. Here's the address you asked me for.
Address? What address?
That's the one. The luggage is all packed and downstairs, Mrs. Farrer.
Her hand was shaking. What can be the matter?
It's nothing. It will pass.
Finally, you come to the dwarfs. The only ones that can exist at such altitudes.
Yes, dear, of course. Now, you sit down, and one of us will read to you for a bit.
Thank you.
Doctor, I was reading an article on Lapland or Canada to him. Here, you will find the place marked.
It's here! The taxi!
Dear, not so much noise.
I'm sorry. Can I go in front with the driver, Mummy? Can I?
I'll come and see you off.
Say goodbye nicely to Uncle David.
Goodbye, Uncle David.
Goodbye. Goodbye.
Goodbye, Doctor.
Come again and cheer us up.
I shall be back in a minute, David.
Goodbye.
No, I'm not going. I shall be back in a minute. Read him the bit about the dog race, Doctor.
Goodbye, Mr. Anson.
Yes, goodbye.
I'll be back in a minute, dear.
I know. Everybody shouts at me this morning. Do they think I'm deaf?
Now then. Morning saw the whole population agog with excitement to witness the great Canadian husky dog race. Again and again, the strangely thrilling cry of mush echoed and re-echoed on the frosty air.
Mush?
That's what it says. Again and again...
whose children were those?
Mrs. What's-her-name's. How do you feel?
Well, I have a bit of a pain in my chest and my head.
Have a rest. They're all gone.
A lot of noise and talk. I'm too old for it.
There'll be no noise now. You can have a sleep.
My ties...
Oh, too tight, is it? Here, I'll do it. There.
Thanks.
You're tired, old man. You asleep.
What's the matter?
He's had enough.
When Julian comes back, don't mention Francis Farrer. Talk of anything else. I'll explain later. Oh, it's one thing after another. Poor Julian. It seems as if nothing can go right for him. It's worrying. It really is. I mean, is it my fault? There are times when I wonder. Well, Julian, they've gone.
They waved to me all down the drive. Delightful children, really.
But noisy. Don't.
You know, a girl like that governess really ought to get married and have children of her own. Why doesn't she? She's not bad looking.
One can never understand these things. She'll be an old maid, though. One can see it coming.
Very likely. Oh, well, medicine time. Oh, no, my friends.
I never realized, dear. It never occurred to me.
Oh, it doesn't matter. Evidently, she didn't feel able. She's very changed, isn't she?
Yes. She's changed a great deal. Really, dear, I don't think it would be very suitable now. Years ago, of course, it might have been a different thing.
Yes, that's right.
I'm so sorry.
Well, naturally, I'm disappointed. I had hoped, in spite of everything, that she and I... However... Meanwhile, it was good to see children about the place. Living and working continually among older people, one is apt to forget that half the world is young. Yes, we may fail, miss our opportunities, live stupidly, grow old, but always behind us come the young ones, with new energy, new ideals, new faith. And not all of them will fail. No. Some will succeed, live splendidly, achieve what we have scarcely dared to dream of.
Yes, I dare say, but what are you going to do now, dear? What?
Oh, I shall go back to my work, of course. My career isn't finished by any means. I'm pretty certain to be promoted soon, a year or two at the most. And then I shall be a councillor or head of a department. That's something, after all. And then I intend to come back here a good deal more in the future.
Oh, do, dear.
Yes, I will. I intend to learn gardening. I dare say you've got some books on the subject.
Plenty.
There's a good deal we could do. For instance, we might use the stream to make a sort of water garden, lilies and so on. And then it occurred to me this morning that if we were to cut down 3 or 4 trees over there by the front door and clear away the undergrowth, we could make a great vista stretching away to the sea and border it with azaleas and flowering shrubs. Do you see what I mean?
Yes, dear.
Yes. There's really no end to what we might do. There's no end.
In A Day by the Sea by N.C. Hunter, the part of Frances Farrer was played by Rachel Gurney, Julian Anson by Richard Herndl, Laura Anson, Margot Boyd, David Anson, Rafe Truman, Dr. Farley, Gerald Cross, Miss Matteson, Catherine Parr, William Gregson, Peter Tuddenham, Humphrey Caldwell, Gerard Green, Eleanor, Elizabeth Proud, and Toby, Adam Richardson. The producer was Norman Wright.
A Fall of Moondust by Arthur C. Clarke, adapted for radio by Andrew Lynch, with David Buck as Captain Pat Harris, Barry Foster as Engineer Jim Lawrence, Roland Karam as Tourist Commissioner Davis, Bill Simpson as Commodore Hanstein, Richard Pearson as Dr. Lawson, James Aubrey as Morris Spencer, Libby Morris as Myrie Schuster, Harry Tarb as Irving Schuster, and Jane Knowles as Stewardess Sue Wilkins. A Fall of Moondust.
Okay. That's good. Look at the view.
Welcome aboard, sir. Madam.
Oh, hi.
Hi.
Hope the ship's big enough to take me, Irving. Seems awful small.
Stop worrying, Myra.
I just don't want to get stuck in a seat.
Everywhere we go, you say that. It's not happened yet.
There's always a first time.
Look, we didn't come all the way to the moon for you to get stuck in a seat. Just enjoy the cruise.
How long is the trip expected to last, young lady?
4 hours, madam.
Do we sit anywhere?
Yes, Selene has been designed to give a panoramic view for all its passengers.
Well, I'll stay here at the front, if you don't mind.
I'm sure you'll be very comfortable. Well, welcome aboard, sir.
Hello.
Welcome aboard.
My name is Jayawardena. Do I sit anywhere?
Just sit anywhere, sir. All seats have a perfect view.
Thank you.
Have you got room for your knees?
Everything shipshape, sir?
Yes, Captain Harris. Full complement, as usual.
Good. Catering facilities checked?
Of course.
I'd like the seafood morning, if that's possible.
I'll see what I can do, Pat.
Good. Complete my pre-cruise checks.
These are nice seats.
Welcome aboard.
Oh, I hope I haven't kept you waiting, young lady.
No, sir. You are the last, but not late. You'll find a seat down on the right there.
Thank you. That'll be fine.
Excuse me. The young man in uniform who went through to the front.
Captain Harris has just gone to the bridge.
Are you the only 2 crew members?
That's right.
Oh, dear.
Don't worry. The Selene's a very simple ship to operate.
Don't think I'm making a fuss, miss, but that door seems a bit flimsy. I mean, compared with an aircraft door back on Earth.
The moon creates her own conditions. Just relax and enjoy the trip. Selene's been through the most rigorous safety checks.
You okay, Myra?
Fine, Irving. These seats are very comfortable.
Yeah, it's a neat little ship.
I think that's one of the things I like best about the moon. Everything is so clean.
We're a long way from 39th.
New York's still home. I hope the apartment's okay.
David will look after everything.
Welcome aboard, Selene. Ladies and gentlemen. I'm Sue, and Captain Harris and I are pleased you could join us on the only sightseeing trip across a lunar sea. We shall be away from Port Roris about 4 hours, and our first objective will be Crater Lake, where we will have a breathtaking view of the mountains of inaccessibility. To reach our destination, we shall travel across the Sea of Thirst, ironically named because it is formed from the driest dust imaginable. A vacuum-packed souvenir awaits you at Port Roris on our return.
Right.
The surface temperature of the sea at this moment is around 300 below zero.
God, you wanted to get away from the heat, Myra.
Irving.
We are rather proud of Selene. She's a unique craft even for the 21st century. Compact, extremely simple to operate, and her terminology will be familiar to most of you as it's taken from Earth maritime phraseology. We refer to her fore and aft, port, starboard, bridge, and porthole. She is propelled by electric motors that drive fans below the dust surface. But unlike conventional seacraft, there is no discomfort to be experienced by erratic motion. There are no waves, and seasickness is something we'll never experience. If during the trip you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. A 3-course meal incorporated in the price of your cruise ticket will be served in about an hour and a half from now. Enjoy your trip, everyone, and I'll now hand you over to Captain Harris.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Captain Pat Harris speaking to you from the bridge. If you would care to swivel your seats to the rear, you will observe the domes of Port Royal dropping swiftly from the skyline.
Oh, isn't that a sight?
You have all, no doubt, observed the stars from the clarity of space and been dazzled by the face of the mother planet, but this is a new experience for you. We are now traveling on neither land, nor sea, or space, but a little of each. No sea on Earth could ever be as calm as this. We'll stop for a moment and let you experience how still and placid the lunar surface can be.
Isn't it so quiet and peaceful?
Ghostly. Still grayness.
This is the real face of the moon. That view hasn't changed for billions of years. It's an enormous thought, isn't it? Now, just how far do you imagine the horizon is?
That's bouncing.
Believe it or not, only 3 kilometers. It looks a couple of light years away, but if you could walk on this stuff, you'd be there in 20 minutes.
Imagine.
We'll move on, and I'll leave Sue to explain how the sea was formed.
Most of the moon is covered by a thin layer of dust, usually no more than a few millimeters in depth. Some of the debris fell from the stars when meteorites rained on the unprotected surface over at least 5 billion years. Some has flaked from lunar rocks as they expanded and contracted in the fierce climatic conditions. It's more liquid than sand or anything similar. It flows quicker than syrup and just slower than water. Over the ages, it has flowed down from the mountains into the lowlands to form pools and lakes. The first explorers expected this, but the Sea of Thirst was a surprise because of its size.
Terrific.
And ahead we now see the mountains of inaccessibility, so called because they are entirely surrounded by sea.
Have they ever been climbed?
No, they haven't. Aren't they a wonderful sight? I'll go through to the bridge and put the main lights out to give you a better view and leave you to take in the haunting beauty.
Yeah, that was ridiculous.
Look.
I've never seen anything like it.
Interesting. What are the passengers like?
They seem an ordinary bunch. There's one man I seem to recognize from somewhere, but I can't place him.
I'll point him out when I do my walkabout. Are you busy later? After the trip, I mean.
Well, I said I'd go and see the latest Earth video with a friend. Why do you ask?
I'm thinking of trying the new restaurant that's opened in Clavier City. I thought you might like to join me.
I went 3 or 4 days ago. It's very good.
Oh. Some other time, then.
That'd be nice. I don't think you'll need to eat out tonight. There's plenty of seafood Mornay aboard.
Good.
Oh, there's a Miss Morley sat front port who asked who you were.
Yeah, I think I noticed her. Why do they always look like that?
Now then, Captain, diplomacy and charm. Remember your code of conduct. I'd better get back to them.
Out of this world.
Strange, isn't it? That man has to travel so far from the fields, lakes and forests to appreciate the real beauty of his own world.
Are you a poet?
No, ma'am. I just never dreamed it could look so beautiful. Bluey green crescent hanging in space.
Do you think David's looking up at the moon, Irving?
I hope he's looking after the office.
Forget the office. That's what we came here for. Rest, the doctor said.
You tell me. And who's worrying about the apartment?
Not now. I'm looking at a wonderful world.
Are you New Yorkers?
How'd you guess?
Oh, I worked in the Bronx for a while.
You're not American.
No. Australian, one of the originals.
Ah.
Long way from the Big Apple.
Nobody calls it that anymore.
We can almost see both our homes from here. I'm Irving Schuster. This is my wife, Myra.
Oh, I'm pleased to meet you. I'm Duncan Mackenzie.
It's our first trip to the moon.
Really?
Our first trip anywhere for years.
Wow.
The doctor, a personal friend,
Yeah.
says, Irving, you have a fine son to take care of your business. Take a vacation. Next year, maybe, he says.
So, here we are.
Always next year.
So now it's next year. And you? First trip?
Oh, yeah. I've been promising myself this for a long time.
You're alone? You don't have a wife with you?
Myra.
Excuse me, sir. Please don't think me impertinent, but have we met before?
Oh, I'm sure I couldn't have forgotten such a charming lady.
Sorry, I rarely forget a face. Occupational hazard. You must remind me of someone else.
I just seem to have that sort of face.
I'll get the cans in my bag.
Can you get
Are you sure you shouldn't be at the front, Captain?
Aye, we're quite safe on automatic pilot for another 7 minutes, Miss Morley. We're traveling a well-trodden route in a straight line.
But what's that?
Sorry?
Up ahead. Captain, we're heading straight into it.
Irving! Irving, there's a hole in the sea!
It'll be planned, Myra. We'll be programmed to go around it.
Pat, what is it?
Oh, God, I don't know. I'm going on the bridge.
My God!
Pat, we're sinking. What's happening?
Hang on, Sue. I'm trying to lift her. We're going down.
Look at the portholes. The dust is halfway up the glass.
Just try and keep calm.
Chief Engineer Lawrence, Mr. Davies.
Oh, Jim! Good of you to come. Take a seat.
I don't have long. What can I do for you, Rex?
You've time for some tourist office refreshment, I'm sure. Anne, would you please?
Yes.
Are you buttering me up for something, Rex?
Just being courteous to a fellow member of the moon management team.
Always the PR man. Come on, let's have it.
I had a stroll through the park earlier and happened to bump into the chief administrator. He's rather taken with the park, Jim, particularly impressed by the 15-metre sunflowers.
And the back-projected clouds, no doubt. It must be nice to have the time to admire them.
Oh, those clouds are lovely. You should dream a little.
I can look at clouds on Earth and listen to birds.
Well, perhaps you'd like something else. A thunderstorm, maybe?
No, thanks. So what did the chief have to say?
We discussed an idea for tourism.
Oh, you know my views on tourism. Just an additional headache we can live without.
Oh, no, we can't. It's our lifeblood here on the moon, Jim. The only way we can be independent of Earth. This idea would benefit both our departments.
Go on, Rex. I'm listening.
The water skiing champion of Australia has contacted me to ask if anyone has ever skied on the Sea of Thirst.
I thought you wanted me here for something serious.
I am serious. It could be a whole new sport. Is it technically possible? That's all I want to know.
It's probably just a matter of being able to maintain speed and maneuverability. I just don't know. We'd have to do some experiments.
Could Cellini do it?
It's possible. All I can see from my department's point of view is headaches. I'm running on a shoestring as it is.
Exactly, Jim. The tourists bring the money in. Any extra revenue generated by a fresh influx would be used to benefit both our departments.
When I've got time, I'll see what I can do, all right?
That's all I'm asking.
Excuse me, sir. Red priority column 7.
Put it through, Anne. Chief Engineer Lawrence has the same clearance as me.
It's for Chief Engineer Lawrence.
Oh, fine. Put it through, Anne. Call for you on 7, Jim.
Thank you. Lawrence, yes? How long ago? No answer whatsoever. Try the moon crash band, Ed. You did. Right. See you in control in a couple of minutes.
Trouble?
That was Ed, my number 1. It's probably a false alarm, but I'd better get down to control. Cellini hasn't made her routine call.
Oh, well, what do you think could have happened?
I'm going to find out.
I'll come with you.
If anything has happened to her out there, we can only reach her with the dust skis. I've said all along we should have had 2 dust cruisers operational before we started these trips.
Couldn't agree more. That's the sort of equipment we could buy with any additional revenue.
Ed, what's the problem?
The 1900-hour signal came in bang on time. That was here. Nothing at 2000. That's when they called me. I've had the instrument guys check it out our end, and it's all right. We tried to contact her on her regular frequency and drew a blank. We've scanned the adjoining bands, and again, nothing. That's when I called you.
And nothing on the moon crash band?
Not yet.
If she travelled from the 1900 signal until now, how far away from the last point of contact could she be?
Flat out, she'd only have travelled 80 kilometres, but she won't be travelling that fast on a sightseeing trip.
Right, if we draw a circle with her position at 1900 hours as its centre and an 80-kilometre radius, she's got to be in there somewhere. Then if we concentrate on this arc in the direction she's travelling, that'll cut down the odds for finding her.
Let's not provoke publicity over this. After all, it's probably just a simple breakdown.
Yes, but we'll dispatch the dust keys anyway. Even if it is a false alarm, it's good training.
How long before we know?
Well, it'll take a while to search several thousand square kilometres at night. Ed, get them started in this area. I'll prepare for us to travel to Port Roris in a suborbital, just in case we're needed.
Okay, Chief.
What could have happened? I don't know. If it isn't a communications breakdown, there can only be a few possibilities. It was sudden. An explosion, maybe.
I'd better set up a meeting with the legal department. Do you think we should tell the Chief Administrator?
I'll leave that to you. Maybe he's wandering around your park somewhere.
Thanks, Jim. This won't do the tourist industry any good.
You should be worrying about the tourists that went out on Salini.
Oh, yes, you're right. I'll contact Port Roris and make sure they all signed their indemnity forms. If it came to the worst, we could be sued for billions.
That isn't what I meant. Let's hope they've just hit something and put their communications out of action.
Excuse me, Chief. I've had an idea.
I'm listening, Ed.
Why don't we try Lagrange satellite? The astronomers up there might be able to see something.
At night? From 50,000 kilometres?
It's worth a try. Salini's searchlights could still be burning, and they'd easily spot that on the sea. Contact them, Ed. I'll get our transport arranged to Port Roris.
Dr. Lawson?
Yes, what is it?
I'm very sorry to disturb you, Doctor, but we've received a priority red signal from Lunar Traffic Control, Earthside North.
Traffic control? I'm an astronomer, not a parking attendant. What do they want?
A dust cruiser, the Selene, has gone missing on a sightseeing trip across the Sea of Thirst. 22 people on board. Traffic Control thought there may be a chance we'd spot her lights through the telescope.
I don't know. I'm supposed to be carrying out serious scientific research. Not looking for a busload of lost pleasure seekers.
Yes, Doctor.
100-centimetre telescope. Beautiful instrument. Designed to look at objects billions of times further away from us than the moon. Here we are, like a ping-pong ball, perpetually balanced between Earth and the moon. Where do you say that thing was supposed to be?
The Sea of Thirst, Doctor. I've brought a map.
Map? Map? Don't need a map. Let's look at that view on the screen. That's the Sea of Rains. Those craters are Archimedes, Plato, Aristotles, and Eudoxus. Marvellous. Even on low power.
Yes. Shouldn't we be scanning the dark section, Dr. Lawson?
Of course we should. That's where we're going. It's a big place, the Sea of Thirst. You have any coordinates?
Yes, Doctor.
Well, punch them in. You're expected now to work this thing.
Yes, Doctor. There. It's very dark.
Well, of course it's dark. It's night time. Scan slowly.
What was that?
What? Where?
A bright light. It could have been a searchlight.
Well, trace it back. Very slowly.
There.
Much too bright. Those are the lights of Port Roris. Now, if she's on the Sea of Thirst, we should locate her with a light amplifier or a radiation detector.
It's so dark. I can't see.
Quiet, everyone, please. I think we've stopped moving now. Is anyone injured? No. Just make sure that everyone within touching distance of you is conscious. I'm going to reset the main lights and the purification system.
Irving, you all right?
I'm okay. Are you?
Yeah. Mr. Mackenzie?
Oh, fine. Look at the portholes.
Oh, we're buried.
I see.
Oh, God, we're buried.
And Miss Morley, are you all right?
We are buried, aren't we?
Oh.
Yes, we are under the surface, but we can't be very deep.
At least we now have light. How is everybody, Sue?
At the worst shaken, I think.
Well, if the food's still servable, this might not be a bad time to serve it.
I'll see what I can do.
Good. Could I have your attention, please?
Sure.
We are still in one piece, and no one is worse than a little shocked, as far as I can see. If anyone does need first aid, Sue is a trained nurse, so speak up. I think we've been unfortunate to have been caught in some sort of landslip or moonquake. There's no need to be alarmed. Even if we can't get out under our own power, Port Roris will soon have someone here. Meanwhile, Sue is about to serve refreshments, so I suggest you all relax, and I'll contact base. Salini to Port Roris. Salini to Port Roris. Come in, please.
Food's underway. Are you through?
Not yet.
What's happened? Any ideas?
I'm not sure. Some sort of landslip. Salini to Port Roris. Come in, please.
Perhaps the radio's damaged.
Possibly. I'm getting an outside pressure reading, which indicates we're deeper than I had first thought.
Well, how deep?
Well, at a rough estimate, I'd say about 10 meters.
As much as that. Is everything else all right?
All equipment appears to be functional.
Oh, I'm sorry, sir. No passengers allowed in here.
No, that's all right, Sue.
No, I don't want to intrude, Captain. Selina is your ship. I thought I'd introduce myself in case I can be of some assistance.
Glad to have you aboard, Commodore.
Commodore?
Commodore Hanstein.
The man who led the first expedition to Pluto.
I thought I recognized you, but your name didn't ring a bell from the passenger list.
I've shaved off my beard. My alias is Hansen. Since my retirement, I've tried to do some quiet sightseeing.
Sorry about this, Commodore.
No, it's not your fault. How desperate is the situation?
I'll carry on with the meeting.
Yeah, fine, Sue. We're deeper than I first thought. My guess is about 10 meters.
Doesn't sound too good.
We aren't too far from Port Roris. They should find us fairly quickly.
My experience tells me to look on the black side. How long could we last if we had to?
Well, oxygen would be the limiting factor. We've enough for about 7 days, Earth days, that is, provided there are no leaks and she seems sound enough.
What about food, water, and power?
No problem. We carry the compulsory emergency supply rations. We can purify all the water we need, and there's ample power now that the main motors are shut down.
Any luck with the radio?
I think the dust's blanketed everything out. I've left the beacon on moon crash. If anything can get through, it'll be that.
If they had to find us any other way, any estimate how long it would take?
Well, the search would have begun as soon as our 2000 signal was missed. They'll know our general area, but we'll have sunk without trace.
In the meantime, you've got to keep the customers happy. Why not give them a pep talk about the search procedure?
Yeah, I'll do that, Commodore. Thank you.
Best not to give the impression somebody will be knocking on the door in half an hour, though. It would make it difficult if we had to wait a day or two.
Can't see a thing. Can you?
I felt sure we'd find something after the photographs had gone through computer enhancement, but it's just as if the sea hasn't been touched for hundreds of years.
Billions of years. In the Earthlight, it'll be possible to see her shadow clearly. If not, then we can assume she came to grief in this area. Put these through the enhancer, Ingrid.
Right. Crater Lake? In the middle of the mountains?
Well, it's far more logical to assume she'd have an accident where always boulders are strewn about the place than in the open sea where she'd be unobstructed.
It's still very black, Doctor.
No light at all. Scores of isolated crags and boulders. You see, all this area is blocked from us by the mountains. The only chance there is to investigate at ground level. Inform Earthside Control and give them our interim report.
Are we giving up, Dr. Lawson?
Good Lord, no. Just getting interesting.
Commissioner Davis.
Yes, Anne?
The copy of the report from the Lagrange satellites through on Telfax.
Oh, any news?
No, they haven't seen anything at all.
This has happened at a very bad time. Is that the passenger list?
Yes, sir. There's an appendix.
Hell, that's all I need. Commodore Hanstein's on board, travelling under an assumed name.
The Commodore Hanstein?
Imagine what that's going to do to our public image. Lawrence should have arrived at Port Roris by now. Make sure he's got all this information.
Yes, sir.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the position. We're only about 60 kilometers from base, 3 from the mountains of inaccessibility, and we are in no immediate danger.
But how long, Captain?
As I said earlier, I've no reason to believe we won't be located quite soon.
Shouldn't someone be on the bridge by the radio?
Now, I've boosted reception. We'll hear any incoming signal throughout the ship, and they can hear us from in here.
What do we do in the meantime?
Well, we are very fortunate to have Commodore Hanstein aboard. As you probably know, he's the most traveled Earthman in history.
And I don't intend staying still for long here.
Perhaps, Commodore, you can suggest ways we can pass the time.
All right, Captain. Do we have any books on board?
Do we?
Here's one. Would you mind passing it up, please? And another. Oh, fine. We seem to have an overkill of the official tourist handout. Now, what's this one about?
Oh, I'm afraid it's only a little drawn through history.
The Orange and the Apple.
It's absolute rubbish.
We're not looking for heavy literature. The Orange and the Apple. The truth of the romance between Nell Gwynn and Sir Isaac Newton. It sounds juicy.
It was written by a promiscuous schoolgirl on Mars.
Thank you, Miss Morley. I know this one. Shane. Good old-fashioned Western. Well, that's a start. Later on, we could have some volunteer readers, Captain.
Good idea. Well, that's our entertainment taken care of. Are there any more questions?
I noticed there was a spacesuit in the airlock. Well, couldn't someone swim up to the surface? Then the search party would know where we were immediately.
Sorry, Miss Morley, but it would be like swimming in sand. You'd be absolutely blind. How would the person know which was up or down? How could he close the outer door after him? The dust would just flood in.
If there are no more questions, why don't we all introduce ourselves? I'll go round the ship, and perhaps you'll give your name, occupation, and hometown. You have a remarkable collection of talent on board, if I may say so, Captain. Any sign of our rescuers?
No, Commodore, not as yet.
Do you mind if I have a word, Captain?
No, Mr.
Mackenzie.
Yes, our Australian physicist, correct?
Correct, Commodore. I'm a little worried.
Go ahead.
What's it all about?
If my reasoning is correct, a 7 days limitation on our oxygen supply won't be our greatest danger.
And what is?
Heat. We're blanketed by dust. It's about the best insulator there is. The heat from our bodies and the machinery can't escape. That means it'll get hotter and hotter until we cook.
I never gave that a thought. How long do you think it'd take?
Well, not much more than a day. It'll take me about half an hour to come up with a more accurate estimate. The cabin temperature readout will give us a fair indication.
Yeah, he's right. It's gone up 2 degrees already.
Yeah, a degree an hour. I was afraid it might be as bad as that.
We'll have to increase the cooling part.
Won't that make matters worse?
Yeah, I'm afraid so. All our refrigeration system does is pump heat out of the cabin. Now, there isn't anywhere for it to go.
Well, check your figures, Mackenzie, and let us know how long we've got as soon as possible.
Right.
And we'd better keep this between the 3 of us for the time being.
Hello, Chief. Hi, Ed. Welcome to Port Roris.
Anything new on Selene, George?
Oh, nothing good, Chief. We have a report from Lagrange Satellite and another from Plato Observatory, and get this. Commodore Hanstein's on board.
Aboard Selene?
Yep.
Does Tourist Commissioner Davis know?
Oh, he's taking it very personally, Chief.
I'll bet. Anything from the Duskies?
Afraid not. I'll have to pull them in soon to change crews.
Okay, but make it snappy. What does Lagrange say?
Even with computer enhancement, they can't see anything out there. I suppose all her lights could be out.
No lights, no radio. That would mean a breakdown of at least 10 circuits. What does Plato Observatory have to say?
Oh, it gets worse, Chief. At 1936 hours, they recorded a massive land slippage in the area of the Mountains of Inaccessibility. A violent moonquake.
Hell. So that's what's happened. A lot of activity?
Like nothing they ever recorded before.
Are there likely to be further tremors?
Well, they say very unlikely. Once the stress has been relieved, it isn't likely to happen again for a couple of thousand years.
The time's about right for Selene to have been slap bang in the middle of it.
If they are buried under those rocks, they'll have had it by now. Selene's hull would have cracked like an eggshell. Okay. Get the Duskies back, George. I'm calling off the search in the Sea of Thirst. Get them fixed up with metal detectors and gas sniffers and head for the mountains when they've changed crews. It's time to pick up the pieces.
Right, Chief.
Ed, inform Dr. Lawson on LaGrange of the news. Thank him for his help and all that.
I will do.
That's it, then. I'd better speak to the administrator. And to Rex Davis, I suppose.
Doctor, there's a message from Chief Engineer Lawrence, thanking you for your efforts and saying the search has been called off. There's been a report of a moonquake causing an avalanche on the mountains of inaccessibility, and it seems that Cellini is crushed under the rocks.
Blast. I was almost ready.
What's that, Doctor?
It's an old-fashioned infrared scanner linked up to the telescope. Quite enjoyed the challenge. All a waste of time, now. Those poor people.
Isn't it still worth a try, Doctor? She might have survived the avalanche. Will it work in the mountainous area?
No, of course not. There's been an avalanche and landslides. All the temperatures will be uneven. Complete waste of time.
Sorry, sir. I don't know anything about them.
Come here. Very basic. Though Cellini left no visible trace across the sea, she will definitely have left an infrared one. You understand?
Not really.
Oh, she'd have stirred up relatively warm dust from a few feet down and scattered it across a far colder surface. An eye that could detect heat could pick up her track for hours after she passed. It would have just been time for us to make a survey before the sun rose and obliterated all trace of the heat trail.
Couldn't we still try it?
No reason to now.
I'm still not sure how it works.
Good gracious, Ingrid, look, it's fundamental. Now, all you have to do...
Captain, Commodore, can I have a word with you?
Yeah, of course, Mac. How bad is it?
It's bad. If conditions remain the same, we could have our first death from a heat stroke within 20 hours.
As soon as that? Doesn't give them much time to find us and get us out, does it?
No.
If we slept, that would lower the body temperatures.
It'd help. It would make sense to sleep now before conditions become unbearable.
And we could turn the main lights off.
Right. We must give ourselves every possible chance. May I speak with them? With your permission, Pat.
Yeah, sure, Commodore.
Ladies and gentlemen, yes, we've all had a busy day, and I think most of us would be glad to get some sleep.
In these conditions?
I agree, Mrs. Schuster. You've probably all noticed that it's becoming a little warm in here, and my advice is to remove all unnecessary clothing.
What do you mean by that?
Now, comfort is much more important than modesty. We'll turn the main lights off and leave the emergency ones on. Somebody will remain awake all the time in the bridge, waiting for our rescuers.
If anyone would like a drink or anything else, please don't hesitate to ask.
Come on, take off your dress, be comfortable. Nobody's looking. Everybody's concerned with themselves.
That stewardess, Sue. If God had given me a figure like hers, I would undress. Myra Schuster stays covered up.
Okay, Myra.
I'd like to take the first watch, Captain. I can do some more calculations.
Yeah, I'll be over there if you need me, though I doubt if I'll sleep.
How did the meeting go, Chief?
They're preparing a press release and messages to the next of kin. The administrator's going to come in for a lot of flack.
And Tourist Commissioner Davies?
Smooth as ever. He's writing the press release. Wouldn't surprise me if he didn't try to make out it was a mass suicide to save his precious tourist industry. Oh, what's the situation with the dust skis, Ed?
Oh, they've left for the mountains with the detection gear, and we're set up for a quick turnaround with crews.
Fine. Well, let's hope we can give him a decent burial. I'm going for a drink.
Pat, I'm sorry to wake you, but I can hear something.
No, I wasn't asleep. What is it?
Look, just put your ear to the hull. Can you hear it?
It's the dust moving.
Thank God. They must have found
No,
us.
I'm not sure. How's the temperature?
It isn't going up as fast as I predicted.
Because the lights and sleeping?
Shouldn't have made that much difference. I don't understand.
The noise. I think I do.
Should we wake the others?
No. This dust is so fine it'll flow like water in the right conditions. I think the heat is slowly dissipating into it and causing a convection current.
I thought they'd found us.
It's a bit of good news anyway if Cellini isn't heating up as quickly as we thought. The dust skis will be out searching. They could even be near us right now.
Drowning your sorrows, Chief.
On this stuff? You know, we've beaten most of the killer diseases, and we can still lose 22 people out on a joyride.
I know how you feel, Chief. The first ski is back. They're turning it round at the moment.
Fine, Ed.
Oh, and Dr. Lawson from Lagrange Satellite wants to speak to you.
Didn't you tell him about the mountains?
Yeah, I told him earlier, but the message is he wants to speak to you.
Oh, well, I better call him. Ed, use the extension.
Yeah, right.
Hello? Hello?
Dr. Lawson?
Speaking.
Hello, Doctor. Chief Engineer Lawrence.
Good. Selene, dear fellow, the missing tourist bus. I believe I know where she is.
Yeah, in the mountains.
No, she never got that far. Anyway, it won't work there. The temperatures are too uneven. No, it was while I was explaining the infrared technique to Ingrid. It's very simple, but she wanted a practical demonstration, and that's when we spotted the trail.
Doctor, where have you found Selene?
Ingrid has just sent the photographs over telefax to you.
I'll go and get them.
Look, yeah, could you start at the beginning, please?
Certainly. You see, after I was unable to locate any sign of your missing craft by conventional use of the telescope, I rigged up an infrared scanning device. Then the word came from you that you were calling off the search because Selene was probably buried under the mountains. I was a little annoyed about that. But as I was explaining the method of heat detection to my assistant Ingrid, we picked up Selene's trail. It's quite elementary.
Here you are, Chief.
Oh, yeah, thanks. Yeah, I have the photographs in front of me now. Yes. I see what you mean. Yes, I can see the trail, but I can't see the cruiser.
That's a puzzle, isn't it? It seems as if she's just flown away.
Doctor, she can't fly.
I know that, of course. So if she can't go up, she must have gone down.
Hey, could be right, Chief.
What are you saying, Doctor?
Well, it's obvious to me she can't fly. There's no trace of her leaving that spot, so she must be under it.
What about an explosion? She could have just disintegrated.
Well, there'd be hot fragments all over the place. My infrared scanner would be going wild.
Hell, Doctor, I hope you're right. Excuse me, one moment. Ed, contact Davis and tell him to hold any press releases. Tell him there's a slight chance she's under the sea. I want both dust skis holding here at base. Then contact Plato Observatory and see if there could be a connection between the landslide in the mountains and that point on the Sea of Thirst.
Sure, Chief.
Dr. Lawson, how accurate is your infrared scanner?
Totally. Depending on the range, of course.
To what accuracy could you pinpoint the last location of Selene?
Well, not very well on this floating ping-pong ball. Well, say to roughly within half a kilometre.
I see. That's still a wide area for such a small craft, but it's a very good start. I'll get the search party back out there straight away.
There is another way.
I'm listening, Doctor.
You could do an infrared scan on the surface of the sea with a great deal of accuracy, provided we did it before the next sunrise and the heat of the sun's rays obliterated all signs.
Doctor, that's it. Brilliant.
Quite. I could be ready to leave in, say 7 minutes, if you'd like me to come down. Feel like stretching my legs.
I'll see what traffic's like in your area, have you picked up. See you soon.
Goodbye.
I've got both dust skis back here waiting, Chief. What's going on?
There may still be a chance. Selene could be buried somewhere here, under the Sea of Thirst.
Whew. Well, if her systems are still functional, they could still be alive.
That's right. Ed, find a suitable craft in the region of Lagrange to bring Doc Lawson and his machine down.
Right, Chief.
Shall I get the skis to this location?
Send one out with a surveyor's rod. There's no harm in trying. Tell them that I'm coming out myself as soon as Dr. Lawson arrives.
I'd like to drive, if that's okay. Pat and Sue are friends of mine.
Oh, sure, George. Contact Farside and ask for a loan of one of their skis. Have another crew wait for it here at a moment's standby.
Right. Chief, there's a ship, the Auriga, 10 hours out from Earth, bound for Clavius City. There's time to divert it to Lagrange.
That's fine, Ed. I'll do it. I have a feeling there'll have to be a few strings pulled. Keep Davis in touch with what's happening, but keep it low-key. We've an awful long way to go yet.
Will you quieten that bluegrass down, Lester? I have a job to hear if there are any more messages.
Just keeping my roots, man. Where is it we're going to?
Lagrange Satellite, then diverting to Port Royce.
Oh, Skipper. I had a little lady lined up in Clavius City.
I had to cancel my own arrangements too, Lester. This diversion has come from the owners via the government.
That important? Why are we going to LaGrange?
Picking a guy up. He's got to be at Port Royal as soon as possible. Better tell the passengers.
Bet it's something to do with that tourist bus gone missing.
We aren't supposed to listen to that security band.
Or be a boring trip without it. That and my banjo.
Go tell the passengers.
Okay.
Origa to LaGrange, ETA 5 minutes.
What's it all about then, Lester?
Mr. Spencer, all I know is diversion to LaGrange observation satellite, then on to Port Royal, a one-horse town. Don't know how long we'll be there. Had a hot one lined up in Clavier City. Even booked a restaurant.
Ah, you must have some idea. You can tell me, Lester.
Couldn't tell you, Mr. Spencer. I know you're a newsman. Even if I did know something, Skip would go mad.
I have a 12-month contract on the moon. I'll be making lots of important contacts. Anybody who does me a favor could be helping themselves for the future.
Well, don't tell anybody I say it.
I never reveal my sources.
I reckon it's something to do with the missing dust cruiser.
What missing dust cruiser?
Skipper and me were listening to a security band. Shouldn't have been, though. Tourist cruiser Seleni's missing. 22 on board. Messed up my stay in port.
Lester, will you get on back here? We're about to dock.
Now, don't say I said. We're picking a scientist up.
Hey, Lester, you make sure he takes this vacant seat, huh?
See what I can do, Mrs. Spencer. That seat okay for you, Dr. Lawson?
Yes, thank you. Very comfortable. Are you sure my luggage is safe?
Oh, it'll be quite all right. What the hell is it anyway?
Scientific equipment. Very sensitive. Be careful.
Sure will.
Bit of a late change of plan, Mr.
Lawson. Dr. Lawson.
My name's Spencer. Are you visiting Port Royal or a patient?
No, I'm not a medical man. Astronomer, actually. Spot of bother in the Sea of Thirst. Fascinating.
Oh, I don't know that area too well.
Oh, I have some photographs. Now, see that line?
Yes.
Ah, you're a newsman.
Does it show that much?
Badge protruding from inside pocket. I'm a trained observer, you see. Excuse me. Oh, just catch a few minutes sleep. Knew it was going to be a busy day.
I refuse to listen to any more of the orange and the apple. It's nothing less than pornography. And with most people down to their underwear.
She's right, Myra. Most people are. It's roasting in here. You're gonna have to take your dress off. This is no time for modesty. It's time for goddamn comfort.
Irving.
Look, I'm sorry, Myra, but be sensible. Miss Morley, I can understand. You, I can't.
All right, maybe we've had a little bit too much reading, but we can't sleep all the time. Does anybody have any ideas for recreation?
Let us have an examination of the motives of people for traveling to the moon.
That's a good idea, Professor...
Jayawardena.
I came here because somebody told me I'd only weigh 20 kilos up here. That's why I came.
Oh, do you feel comfortable in a spacesuit, Doctor?
Never worn one in my life.
As long as you don't suffer from claustrophobia.
If you could see the size of my laboratory aboard LaGrange, you wouldn't ask that question. Well, it's nice to be somewhere there's a bit of gravity. This oxygen flask looks a bit small.
Oh, that's just your emergency supply. The main supply is on the dust ski. Now, let's get our helmets on.
Right, Chief.
How's that? Seems fine. Now, the only control you need worry about is the intercom. That's the panel on your right. It's switched on now, so we can talk quite freely. Any questions? What's this red button for? Emergencies. You won't need it, I hope. It sets off a homing radio beacon if you get lost. Don't touch anything you aren't certain of, Doctor. Don't worry, I won't. Okay, George. Ready to roll. Right, Chief. All my life I've studied other worlds from afar. This is my first taste at first hand, so to speak. How long will it take us to get to the spot? How long, George? About an hour. It's uncanny Well, provided the quake hasn't caused any leaks or systems damage, they're okay for about 6 days.
How far down are they likely to be?
Anybody's guess. Sea's never been plumbed out here, but the deepest dust bowl we've found so far was 41 meters. Does the depth matter to the scanner?
Does it? Obviously she's giving heat out, and the nearer the surface she is, the more detectable it'll be. But now I'm down here, there should be enough heat to give a reading. Not like being stuck up in LaGrange. Once she's been located, just how do you intend getting them out?
Good question, Doctor.
How do you manage to get the only genuine bottle of hooch in Port Royce, Mr. Spencer?
The power of the press, Skipper. I had a bigger job getting these lunar survey maps.
So, that's the Sea of Thirst, and that there'll be the Mountains of Inaccessibility where Seleni's lost.
Where she may be lost.
Huh?
Just between you and me, I believe the old man we picked up from LaGrange Satellite has evidence that she's down in that sea. I stuck close to Lawson. I know he was whizzed through customs and immigration, but the man who met him was Chief Engineer Lawrence, the man in charge of the rescue. He was overheard saying there was a dust ski ready to take them out to the spot.
Sure don't take you long to find your way around, huh?
I'm a pro. I believe that spot there is where Selene is buried. If there are people still alive down there, there's going to be one hell of a salvage operation not too far from here. Port Royce will be the biggest news center in the solar system.
Oh, where do I come in?
Right there, Captain. I want to charter your ship to land me and my video equipment on that promontory, on the western wall of the Mountains of Inaccessibility.
You realize how much that'd cost?
My station will pay. I've spoken to them, and about a bonus for you and Lester. This could be one of the biggest news stories of the century. What do you say? Can it be done?
Well, that's one good thing. There's enough food here for 6 days if we start rationing.
Rationing? It seems a long time since you asked me to go to that new restaurant.
Your friend must have been disappointed.
You never asked me who it was, did you?
I thought if you didn't want to eat with me, that's your business.
You shouldn't accept things at face value.
What do you mean, if I'd asked about the friend you were seeing the video with them? I mean...
I know. But let's wait until we're out of here, okay?
Everything all right, Doctor?
No. It doesn't look too good, I'm afraid. Could we stop a moment?
Sure. George?
I heard, Chief.
What's the problem, Doctor?
The heat image is too confused. There are dozens of hot spots. I was expecting to find just the one, where the dust has been disturbed.
I see. Why was it uniform on the photographs?
Well, I was just confused at the moment. Selene shed a fan blade around here a week ago. It isn't very deep in part. Of course, I should have thought of that. When we reach the depth deep enough to swallow Selene, the temperature will be more uniform.
Good. Let's get a move on.
It's going to be a matter of minutes now, Chief.
Right.
How will you be able to differentiate between hidden rock and Selene? Presuming you hit something with your probe.
Doctor, I just don't know.
This could be it. Stop. Okay. Just look at the screen.
I'll get the other dust ski over here. Let's get the probes rigged, George, and start praying.
Now let's all settle down.
They're doing their best.
Settle down. The heat is getting to us. We've got to be patient.
What's the trouble, Commodore?
There's a feeling we're not doing all we can to get out. I've explained that we've no alternative but to wait for rescue.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're at least 10 meters down. Even if we could get the airlock open, no one could overcome the dust's resistance and get to the surface.
But what about the main motors, Captain? We could try them.
I doubt us moving a centimeter, and we go forward, not up.
Well, we could all stand at the back.
That would probably just damage the hull.
But if there's one chance that it might work, isn't it worth the risk?
We're boiling down here.
All right, that's enough from everybody. The danger in trying to escape unaided is too great. We're safe here for at least 6 more days.
6 days?
Might not be too comfortable. In fact, it'll get hotter. But we've got to stay calm and cooperative.
Calm and cooperative. Listen to that. Shut up! Shut up, everybody!
Myra!
Be quiet! Listen! Listen!
Hey!
They found us! Irving, they found us!
Myra, fantastic.
I'll look back.
I'll go and try the radio.
I've hit something, but I can't tell what it is.
It's Selene, all right. Just look at the trace on the screen. She's giving us an awful lot of heat. The surface of the dust is moving.
Let's all just stand still.
I don't think there's any cause for alarm. I think it's probably just a convection current.
Okay, George. Follow the image of the scanner with Dr. Lawson and stake her out.
Okay.
Must be her. I've hit her again. She's deep, about 15 meters.
Pity the old-fashioned echo sounders couldn't be used.
Yes, you may have something there, Doctor. And the next time I hit her, I'll leave the probe in. If it is Selene, she's blanketed by dust. That's why the radio didn't work. Yeah, I've hit again. I'll try the moon crash band.
That's her. The probe's acting as the aerial.
Yeah, it doesn't mean they're alive, though, George. That signal's on automatic. Probably lasts about 3 weeks. I'll try our own frequency.
Selene calling. Selene calling. Receiving.
Loud and clear. This is Chief Engineer Lawrence, right above you. What condition are you in?
As you can probably hear, you're a popular man at the moment, Chief. I'm Captain Pat Harris. We have no injuries. The hull is intact, and we have oxygen and food supplies for about 6 more days. Our only cause for immediate concern is temperature. It's very hot down here.
It was through heat detection we found you, Pat. And we should be making you a bit more comfortable before very long. We'll have you out as quickly as possible. I'll report back to base with the good news. I'll contact you soon and keep you all in touch with progress. Out.
That's the word, Chief. Out.
Lawrence to Port Rora's control. Come in, please.
Hello, Chief. It's Ed.
Good news, Ed. We've found them. Radio contact established and everyone's okay but suffering from the heat. They have enough oxygen and supplies for 6 days. The problem is going to be getting to them through the dust. She's about 15 meters deep and 3 kilometers from the nearest solid land, and we don't know how deep the dust is below her. I'm going to leave George here, and the doctor and I will come back to base to organize rescue equipment. We can only use the skis out here. Now, how much equipment can any one ski carry?
In total, about 5 tons. But because of balance, the largest single item they can carry is about 2 tons.
So, we can't use any really heavy gear.
Right.
Okay. I'll do some thinking on the way back. Have that ski from Farside standing by.
Will do, Chief. Good work.
Yeah, up to now it's been easy. But let's not kid ourselves. The hard part has just begun.
Are we down, Skipper?
Yes, sirree. We've landed.
It was a bit hairy, I must admit.
Yeah, nothing in the master's handbook about a spaceship traveling 100 kilometers. Even the computer wouldn't be bothered with an efficient trajectory readout. I just let her rip upwards for 1,000 kilometers and brought her down on a normal vertical approach with final auto guidance. Kind of neat, eh, Mrs. Spencer?
I didn't much care for free falling between the retros firing. I kept wondering what would have happened if they hadn't fired again.
Right into the moon.
Mighty cheerful, Lester. Here we are then, Mr. Spencer. Hope you're satisfied with the view. It's costing you enough. Oh, I hope you realize that the 1,000-kilometer jaunt just qualified us for deep space rates.
Have you no soul? There are 22 people buried out there.
Flying this rig is our living, amigo. I know how it is. All sweet talk and promises at the moment to get your story. Then, when it's all old news and the accountants get involved in the cold light of day, that's another story.
Yeah, point taken. Like a scene from a dream, isn't it? The sea stretching out into space. I can see what must be a dust ski. And even the pole joining Salini to the rest of humanity.
Where's that?
Here, you'll need the binoculars. I'll get the camera set up. This is fantastic. By the time anybody else gets anywhere near here, we'll have all the Earth networks tied up. What a picture. The plane, the probe stuck up into the freezing stillness. The loneliness of man personified in this huge and hostile universe he is set out to conquer.
Fancy some chow, Skipper.
Smart idea, Lester. We could be here for some time.
Hey, isn't that a great sound? Listen. Fantastic.
Hello, Salini. Rex Davies here. I just thought I'd leave you a moment with the sounds of Clavia City Park, but await your return. On behalf of the Chief Administrator, I want to assure you that all the resources available on the moon are being mobilized for your aid. Engineering and technical staff are working around the clock to help you. Chief Engineer Lawrence tells me the provisional plan is to sink pipes down to you to ensure a limitless oxygen supply. Sorry for the inconvenience and strain you've had to undergo. That's all over now. Just relax. Sit and wait, and we'll have you out in no time. Good luck. Best wishes, and we'll be in touch again soon.
I wish the Commissioner wouldn't be quite so optimistic, Commodore.
I'm sure he was just thinking about our morale.
It's been fine since the link was established.
Well, I'll be glad to get out of this. I'm getting too old for these sort of adventures.
You've coped admirably, Commodore. I'm glad you're with us.
Nice of you to say so, Captain. It's good to feel useful in retirement. I'm sorry to be so miserable just when everything has taken a turn for the better. Rather a bad headache, that's all.
Yeah, I have a muzzy feeling myself. Must be to do with being cooped up for so long.
What about these drums, Ed? Will they do?
Tests show they'll support 2 tons before sinking.
Fine. Get at least twice as many as we'll need. An important point, everybody. We must have all tools and spares tied down. All tools to be attached to your belts. That's an order. Can't be wandering back to the stores once we're out at sea.
We have problems with breaking through the roof, Chief.
What's the trouble?
Well, we've tried using a bar on the mock-up, but the roof's too springy and it bounces back every time it's hit.
But will it happen when we're using a 15-meter pipe with dust packed round it? Do a test, see if it absorbs the recoil.
Yeah, there's another problem. Most of the control circuitry is in the roof, and it's too tough to put a clean hole through it. If it splinters, it could put one of her main systems out.
Well, we'll have to bore. Use a detachable bit. How's the rest of the plumbing coming along?
Oh, it should be ready in 2 or 3 hours, Chief.
Good. I'll be back in 2. Oh, blast. Lawrence.
Ah, Mr. Lawrence. It's Dr. Lawson here.
Oh, hello, Doctor. Did you sleep well?
To my shame, yes, and a very long time.
You had quite a day. Is there anything you need?
No, thanks. I'm being looked after extraordinarily well. I'd just like some advice from you.
Certainly. Anything at all.
I appear during my hours of slumber to have become something of a celebrity in my own way, and I'm being inundated with questions from the media. What shall I do?
Just tell them everything that happened. Enjoy yourself, Doctor.
Well, it does seem rather decadent here in this luxurious hotel room. Tourist Commissioner Davis said I could have anything I fancied. Rather a rash statement, I thought, when I like unlimited use of all the Grange's facilities to study the planet Gagarin 1.
I'll consider it a personal favor if you keep the newsboys off my back.
If you put it like that, I shall do my best.
I'm sure you will, Doctor. See you later.
I'm sorry to make a fuss, Sue, but if you got something for my headache...
Excuse me, I am also suffering.
We do have some mild painkillers. I'll get them.
Mr. Mackenzie, could you come through to the bridge? The captain would like to see us.
Yes, of course.
Oh, if they're for a headache, I'd like some too.
Mac, I'm afraid we've got another serious problem on our hands.
Another one?
I'm afraid so. It appears we're experiencing a build-up of carbon dioxide.
But I thought you were safe for another few days.
Yeah, under normal circumstances, but unfortunately I think the heat's affected the CO2 conversion system.
How long do you think we got?
Impossible to say accurately, but I'd say a matter of hours.
That doesn't give Lawrence time to get here with his team.
There could be a bit of panic.
Oh, I'm not too delighted myself.
Any ideas?
Oh, there's always the sleep treatment.
It would have the respiration rate.
Well, that's all we can do then.
I'll have a word with him while you radio through, Pat.
Right. I'll come with you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm afraid I have some grave news. You may have noticed some difficulty in breathing.
Now we have.
And several people have complained of headaches. I'm afraid it's the air. We still have plenty of oxygen, but the carbon dioxide we breathe out isn't escaping. The chemical conversion unit has been affected by the heat. As we see it, there's just one chance. We must render ourselves unconscious.
How can we do that?
Asleep, our respiration rate is halved, and the air will last twice as long.
Well, how do you propose we do that, Commodore?
Sue, I take it the first aid kit is the standard issue.
Yes, Commodore.
Could you pass it, please? Now, this, for those of you who might not know, is a standard sleep tube. Now, each tube is sufficient to render an adult instantaneously asleep and keep them asleep for approximately 10 hours.
I'm having none of it.
Now, please, let me finish. We don't have any other choice. 2 people will remain awake. 1 will be the captain.
And I suppose the other one will be you.
No. I'm taking the easy way out. Just to show you how harmless it is, I'll go first. Now, you just unscrew the top, put this end against your forearm, and press here. I'll see you all in 10 hours.
Sleep well, Commodore.
There's no need to worry about that. This stuff just...
Does the rescue base know our position? All that remains is to take a sleep tube. Ah, I see the Commodore has set us a good example.
I'm a paying passenger and I have my rights. I have no intention of taking one of those.
Miss Morley, I am not arguing with you. I am in total charge of this vessel and its occupants. I am tired, I am hot, and my head is banging. I'd much rather sleep, but it's my duty to stay awake.
Morley, we must help the captain. We must preserve the good air. Please pass me one, miss.
Thank you, Professor. Let's not waste any more time. These are microjet hypodermics. You won't feel a thing.
Here you are. Please,
Thank you.
pass them around.
Please, this way, this way.
Thank you.
I refuse to do it.
What really worries the lady, Captain, is she thinks you'll take advantage of her while she's asleep.
How dare you? I've never been so insulted.
Neither have I.
Oh, give me the damn thing. Don't come any closer.
Sleep tight, Miss Morley.
Everything will be all right. I know it will. Are you comfortable, Mr. Schuster?
Oh, yes, thank you, sir. Look, Mara's already asleep. See you later.
Salini to Chief Engineer Lawrence, Port Roris Control. Come in, please.
Hello, Pat. Lawrence here. How did it go?
More or less as planned. Myself and Duncan Mackenzie are the only 2 left awake.
I'll give it to you straight, Pat. Even if we don't hit any snags, we can't reach you in under 5 hours. Can you hang on?
We'll have to. Mac's getting the oxygen supply from the spacesuit. It's the passengers I'm worried about.
All you can do is check their breathing and give them a blast of oxygen when it's necessary. We'll do our best. You can rely on that. Any more you want to say?
No, I'll call you every quarter of an hour. Salini out.
I've got the oxygen.
You go first. All right. We'll take it in turns to keep a check on the passengers.
Oh, I never thought breathing could be so enjoyable. Here you are, Pat. How long will this last?
About 12 hours between us. Don't know how much the others will need.
What have you found a smile at?
Sorry, I was just thinking I wouldn't have much chance if you decided to keep the bottle for yourself.
I thought all you moon-born men were sensitive about that.
Oh, no, it's never bothered me. Couldn't help being born in a gravity 1/6 of yours. How could you tell?
How you're built, mainly. You all have the same tall, slender physique. And your skin. The lamps never seem to give the same tan as natural sunlight on Earth.
I I've never been to Earth, never will. Couldn't take the gravity. Looked Australia plenty of times through my telescope. I have a sentiment for it. My parents took off from Woomera.
Oh, womb is an Aboriginal word meaning a booster stage for spears.
Wow, well, live and learn. I'd better go check the others.
Get your story after all, Mr. Spencer, if that oxygen cylinder runs out.
You sound a heartless man, Skipper.
Just one of life's realists. That right, Lester? I hope they get the poor devils out. Feel like a goddamn vulture sitting up here on a mountain shelf.
Well, I hope it's going to be a rescue, not an exhumation.
Have to be quick. Captain Harris didn't sound too perky last time he reported in.
Cellini calling Lawrence. Come in, please.
Pat, we aren't far away. I can see the probe. It won't be long now.
At last. It's the heat as well as the carbon dioxide.
I know. Don't talk unless it's absolutely necessary. I'll leave this wave band open, and I'll do the talking. I'll let you know everything that's going on, okay, Pat?
All right.
This is better than I could have hoped for. We'll go on air as soon as you can take me. I'll do the intro, and then you can pick up Lawrence on the security radio wavelength and let him do all the work, huh? My cue out will be, the next voice you hear will be that of Lawrence himself.
Understood. Coming to you in 20 seconds.
Okay.
What about the epic struggle for survival and all that?
This could be the greatest event in live television, and I must insist on silence. That's if you want a big fat bonus, huh? What do you say, Skipper?
Lester, shove that cotton-picking banjo and keep your mouth shut.
You'll be on air in 5 seconds from now. 4, 3, 2, 1.
This is Morris Spencer, coming to you live from the Sea of Thirst, Earthside, the moon. The points of light you see on the right of your screens is Chief Engineer Lawrence and his gallant crew of rescuers. The probe sticking starkly from the surface of the sea is the only link 22 people entombed in the dust cruiser Cellini have with the rest of humanity. I'm going to leave the man in charge of the rescue, Chief Engineer Lawrence, to describe his plans to bring the 22 people to the surface, as he is in direct contact with Captain Pat Harris of the stricken craft. I'll leave the hellish conditions down there to your imagination. It's very hot, and there is a serious buildup of carbon dioxide. Let us pray to our own God that Lawrence can get them out of there in time. The next voice you hear will be that of Lawrence himself.
Uh-oh. We got big trouble, Mr. Spencer. I have Tourist Commissioner Davies on a priority channel.
Hell. Okay, I'll handle him, Skipper.
Right.
Hello, Commissioner Davies. How are you?